Welcome everybody to my latest live stream, the Grade 3 Wastewater Exam Prep. I am just getting things set up here so I have a good view of who's in here watching and my chat box. For those of you who did my grades 1 and 2 last month, it was really clunky with some of the using of the pen pad here where I can scribble on this. I fixed a lot of it, so there's not going to be as much jumping around. So for those of you who don't know me and want to get a little bit of a scoop on what exactly I'm doing here, I am doing a live grade 3 wastewater exam prep. This would be the equivalent of like a class B in a state that uses the ABC, or in Georgia, this would be like a class 2, because the different states do different things. So anyway, this would be a journey level or intermediate level exam prep. What we are going to do is we're going to cover some true, false, multiple choice, and math. This is going to be 2 to 2.5 hours long. I tried to cram a lot of it in. A little bit about me, if you're unaware, I've started this channel called The Wastewater Enthusiast. I'm a grade 5 wastewater treatment plant operator. I just got that certification yesterday, and I'm also the chief plant operator of my wastewater plant. I have successfully passed the grades 1 through 5 wastewater tests in California. And I've done those on the first shot. I'm not being braggartly. I'm not, saying, oh, look at me. The reason I tell you that is I understand how these exams tick. I understand how it goes to pass them. Test taking is a skill, and that's why I think this live stream is warranted, especially in my state that we have a really low pass rate for the grade 3. I'm also a D3, T2 drinking water operator, I have passed the D2, D3, T2, T3, also all on the same shot. Again, not because I'm so wonderful, but I'm really good at taking tests, okay? And I do know my stuff. I don't want to undersell myself, but that's a little bit about me. I just saw somebody, oh, California Wastewater, congrats again. Thank you, Christian, for giving me the congrats on the getting that grade 5. It's a nice feeling. Okay, so let's move on. I jam-packed this, so we're going to move on as fast as we can. And please ignore that. I thought I fixed all of those. California grade 3. This is a grade 3 overarching. What I did is I took an old presentation and changed it. So if you see California grade 3, it's just something that I accidentally left in there on the bottom. So some disclaimers and recommendations about this type of thing we're doing, this live stream. This is a practice test style, okay? The thing about practice tests is some people take these practice tests and hope they get those questions. That's not how you're supposed to use practice tests. How you're supposed to use practice tests is it gets you thinking. It exposes weaknesses in your knowledge base that you can go and study. So if we have a question today, like right here I have, if you're fuzzy on any topic of discussion, study it thoroughly. So if there's one thing that catches you slightly off guard or you kind of ask why, that's what we're doing. We're triggering your thought as to, what is it I should be actually looking at to study for the grade 3 or class B or whatever. Tests rotate. So one thing that I will always say when I do these types of webinars and live streams and all that, I cannot guarantee you anything you're going to be asked. It's going to be what they give you. And that's why practice tests can be a little bit of a pitfall. But again, use them appropriately. They're a massive tool towards your studying. States differ on the regulations and difficulty levels. Check your local need to know criteria. I'm basing a lot of this off of my experience, which was the California grade 3. I have heard from a lot of different operators. It's similar to the class B or the intermediate to advanced level in their states. So that's your baseline here. Get a study plan and stick to it, 30 minutes to an hour per day, and start as soon as possible before your exam. Please don't cram. You won't remember any of it. Just don't smash it all in your head the week before. Get in there and start studying over a long period of time, and the stuff sticks. And before I go too far, we're going to the true false next. A couple things that is happening on the live stream. First, there's what we call a latency. There's a 6 to 7 second delay between when I say something and when you hear it. So if you ask something in the chat box, there might be a delay before you actually hear a response. Also, as we go through these, I'm going to be moving through fast. Not trying to lose anybody, but like I crammed a lot of stuff in here. The replay will be available. You can go back and listen to all this afterwards. You don't have to get it all now and then it's all gone. You can come back. Because of that, if you have a question about a question or an answer that I gave you, please put it in the chat box with the number associated with it, so I can actually go back and reference whatever it is that you're referring to. If you just say, I don't get it, or I don't understand, I'm not gonna know what you're saying. And lastly, before I jump in, I wanna thank a few operators for actually contributing to this, because this is a lot. When you get out of the grades 1 and 2, that's easy to build. Grades 3, 4, and 5, this becomes way more difficult to build. And so I wanna thank Christian, who's actually in the chat right now, Abby, Jamel, who I don't even know if he's watching this, Jamel King, grade 5. All 3 of those people are grade 5 operators. And of course, Matt from Operator Mindset, he weighed in as well. I asked him, is there anything I might be missing? And I'm sure a lot of you know who that is. So thank you to all 4 of you for contributing to this. So let's get into it. True, false. When operating 2 basins in series, that means they run parallel to each other. True or false? I'll give you a second. This is false. Series and parallel are opposite. Series means I have a basin here, and then another basin here, and it's this one first, this one second. Very good, Donnie, false, absolutely. And then parallel is, here's my flow. There, sorry, bad arrow there. Here's a basin, here's a basin. So this is parallel, okay? Next one. Secondary clarifiers are designed primarily for solids thickening rather than solid separation. True or false? Are secondary clarifiers there to thicken solids, or are they there to get the solids to separate? This is false. They're solid separation, not thickening. All right, Donnie got that one. And by the way, if you were in my grades 1 and 2, I couldn't see the chat box because of some weird thing that happened with my pen tablet right before I launched the stream. I was able to fix that, so I can actually see you guys in real time chatting. This is great. Number 3, extended aeration processes typically have lower sludge production compared to conventional activated sludge. Do extended aeration processes produce more sludge or lower sludge than a conventional activated sludge? This would be true. It's way more stable. You should look at the different phases of activated sludge and microbial growth. This one, yeah, it's just stable. They're just not multiplying as much. And actually in an extended aeration, they're kind of cannibalizing each other a little bit. Number 4, chlorination is less powerful than free chlorine. Because of this, free chlorine is always the best way chlorine can be used to disinfect in a treatment plant. True or false? This is false. Watch out for these always words. The always never trap. I'm always suspect of something when I see the word always or never. Chlorination has its place, even though it may not be, nuking the bacteria. There's disinfection byproducts you have to think about with free chlorine. Chlorination, you don't have to worry about those as much. And the other thing that chloramines do is they hold their residual longer than free. So if it's a hot, windy day and you've got a lot of detention time in your contact chamber, chloramines are actually pretty useful. Number 5, detecting fecal coliform confirms pathogens are present. When you do a test and you detect fecal coliform, that confirms the pathogens are present. True or false? This is false. Fecal coliform is still an indicator organism. It has not confirmed anything. It's just confirmed that there's fecal contamination, not that pathogens are present. This is a tricky one. I actually wrung my hands about this one when I ran into it on one of my tests, and I went and looked it up afterwards. Hey, don't worry about it, Donnie. That's why we're here, right? It really hung me up when I ran into this question because I was like, oh, wait a second. So no, it's still an indicator. Number 6, alkalinity is consumed during nitrification. Alkalinity is consumed during nitrification. True. Yep, absolutely. There's a few different things that are going on there, but yeah, just know that alkalinity is consumed. Alkalinity is put back in during denitrification at half the rate. Okay, half the rate that it's consumed during nitrification. Number 7. Yeah, Donnie, it's a number that escapes me. I want to say it's 7.14 for some reason, but I don't think that's right. I would have to reference that. Yeah, it's like 7 point something pounds per pound of ammonia converted, and then it's half of it. It's like 3 point something pounds of alkalinity is returned when you denitrify. So yeah, look that one up. That one never sticks with me because it's not something I need to hang on to in my mind. for work or anything. Complete mix and extended aeration activated sludge variations have almost the exact same F to M ratio. Complete mix and extended aeration activated sludge variations have almost the exact same F to M ratio. This is false. All right, thanks for dropping in, Christian. Appreciate it. He has to run to a meeting. Complete mix is going to be a higher F to M ratio. Extended aeration can get really, really low. Complete mix is going to be, you can have a 0.2 to a 0.4, 0.3. I think it can go all the way to a 0.5, which seems really, really high, but extended aeration is going to be really, really low. So this is false. Aerobic digester supernatant is very clear, but still requires treatment prior to disinfection. This is number 8. Aerobic digester supernatant is very clear, but still requires treatment prior to disinfection. This is true. It's still loaded with BOD and nitrogen, really. Lots of nitrogen typically in an aerobic digester supernatant. It goes without saying for anaerobic digester supernatant, which is pretty turbid typically. Aerobic digester supernatant is pretty, you're doing it right, it comes out pretty clear, but it's still, you got to run it through the process. At my plant, it goes back to the headworks. I've seen other plants where it just goes straight to aeration. Number 9, disinfection refers to the killing of all microbes in the water. Number 9, disinfection refers to the killing of all microbes in the water. True or false? False. Disinfection refers to the inactivation or killing of pathogens, not all the microbes. And what this is killing of everything in the water is called sterilization. It's impractical, it's incredibly expensive. And something that, I experienced it on my grade 5, and I actually wrote a little note because they said something about how chlorine was killing all the pathogens. That's actually, and it was the correct answer because the other answers that they had were ridiculous and weren't right. But I actually wrote them a little note and said, hey, it's technically inactivation of viruses. You kill bacteria with the chlorine, but when you're hitting viruses, they're technically not alive or dead before they inhabit. They're interesting creatures before they inhabit the host. What you do is you deactivate their ability to reproduce and make you sick. They're still there. So anyway, it's a nuance, but I think it's really important to call that out and make sure that you understand that disinfection is the killing of some pathogens, but also the deactivation. Remember that word, of pathogens. Number 10, the primary purpose of sludge thickeners is to optimize digester performance. The primary purpose of sludge thickeners is to optimize digester performance. True. You want as thick a sludge as possible going to your digester. That's why we use thickeners. I'm sure they have some other side reason that you would use a thickener, but your purpose in a thickener is to get as much water out of that sludge before you send it to digestion, okay? Number 11, autotrophic bacteria are responsible for ammonia oxidation. Autotrophic bacteria are responsible for ammonia oxidation. This is true. Autotrophs. Check out my wastewater whiteboard on nitrification and denitrification. I go into what autotrophs actually are. There's heterotrophs and autotrophs. Autotrophs are using inorganic carbon as their food source and inorganic substances like ammonia. Okay, and then that I go into it. I'm not going to get into it on the true false segment right now, but yes, this is true. Ammonia oxidizing bacteria. Number 12, when operating a belt filter press, the belt tension should be as tight as possible to ensure the best solids capture efficiency. When operating a belt filter press, the tension should be as tight as possible to ensure the best solids capture efficiency. This is going to be false. That's a really good way to blind your belt. The pores, you have to have tension, of course, but if it's so as tight as possible, those pores stretch and they blind when the water's supposed to pass through. That's false. 13, 65% methane, 33% CO2, 1% H2S, and less than 1% other gases is acceptable when operating an anaerobic digester? 65% methane, 33% CO2, 1% H2S, and less than 1% other gases. This is false. So this is a common thing they're going to do. The eye is trained for these two, right? Oh, 65% methane, that looks pretty good. 33% CO2, that looks pretty good. This is the trick. 1% hydrogen sulfide, no way. It's more like 200 part per million. 1% is 10,000 part per million. You're typically going to see 1% H2S and other gases. H2S is in there, but it's not 1%. That could cause a lot of problems, corrosivity, and among other things. Yeah, so this is false. Watch out for that. Number 14, struvite prevention, phosphorus removal, odor control, and CEPT are all acceptable uses for ferric chloride. Struvite prevention, phosphorus removal, odor control, and CEPT. This is true. Yep, you should really know all the uses for ferric. I got hammered on, I can't tell you all the things because obviously I can't give away actual test questions that I experienced, and it's been years, so it's fuzzy at this point, but I just remember getting a lot of questions about ferric chloride on my grade 3, so just be aware. Number 15, aluminum sulfate adds alkalinity and raises the pH of the water. Aluminum sulfate adds alkalinity and raises the pH of the water. This is false. Nope, absolute opposite. It eats up alkalinity and lowers the pH. It's acidic. Okay, pretty common thing to run into at this level is knowing that lowers the pH. Number 16, when nitrifying on a trickling filter, it's important to keep the organic loading at around 20 pounds per day per 1,000 cubic feet. When nitrifying on a trickling filter, it's important to keep the organic loading at around 20 pounds per day per 1,000 cubic feet. This is false. Less than 10 pounds. Okay, you want less food. When you start getting into these nitrification questions, just remember a little, err on the side of less food. Okay, 20 pounds per day per 1,000 cubic foot is more like a standard rate. This is a nitrifying trickling filter would be less than 10 pounds per day per 1,000 cubic feet. And these are the types of trickling filter and pond questions you're going to start getting. Not about, sloughings and stuff. That's a grade 1 and 2 thing. Okay, number 17. Increasing the MCRT and DO in aeration is a common way to oxidize ammonia. Increasing the MCRT and DO in aeration is a common way to oxidize ammonia. True. You're going to want to get those autotrophs we talked about earlier. They're slow growers. You need to increase your MCRT or SRT if that's what you're using in your plant, or whatever. A sludge age could be used. You want the higher the better, and you need more DO, more dissolved oxygen, typically around 2 to 4 milligrams per liter. I've seen higher, but 2 is like the floor. I've never seen anybody recommend less than a 2 milligram per liter dissolved oxygen concentration for nitrification. Okay? Number 18, sodium hypochlorite is more expensive, but safer to handle than gas chlorine. Sodium hypochlorite is more expensive, but safer to handle than gas chlorine. True. This is true. Yeah, you instead of shipping gas in big containers, it's liquid. It's 80%, or it's mostly water. You're just shipping water around. However, you don't have all the pitfalls of gas chlorine. Not pitfalls, but it's dangerous to work with. I shouldn't say pitfalls. An example of infiltration refers to stormwater entering through cracks in underground sewer pipes, and inflow refers to stormwater entering through unsealed manholes. True or false? True. Make sure you know the ins and outs of I&I. I haven't studied a ton of I&I. I have to deal with it. I&I is a pretty simple concept, but they can come up with some tricky questions about it. It's kind of surprising when you're taking your test. It's like, geez, where do they come up with this? It's typically nothing I have to really worry about, but just understand I&I and it's what it does to a plant. When performing a permit required confined space entry, the 3 roles that need to be filled are the entrant, attendant, and entry supervisor. True or false? This is true. Those are the 3 roles. Now, had a fun little debate over text message this morning, and if any of you are on LinkedIn with me, you might have seen me comment on somebody's thing. So here's the deal. 3 roles that need to be filled. If you get a question on your exam that says what's the minimum number of people required? Is it 3? It's 2. And here's why. The entry supervisor can also be the attendant, and it can also be the entrant. Okay, so really the minimum, if they say the minimum number of people, if I was taking that test, even though I know there's 3 roles to be filled, I would say 2 because that is OSHA regulations. That's what OSHA says. Best practices, 3 or more, because you can get into some sketchy stuff with confined space, permit required confined spaces, but this is the bare minimum amount of people, since the entry supervisor can also be the attendant or the entrant at the same time. Just something to be aware of. So that's a true false. Not too bad, pretty easy. Now we're gonna jump into the multiple choice, which is we're gonna ratchet up the difficulty here. So remember what the true false, if you don't know it, you have a 50-50 shot. Multiple choice, it's a little bit more of they're gonna screw with your head a little bit more on this one. So I've tried my best to build it in that way, but not lose everybody while I'm doing this, okay? So let's get into the multiple choice. And if you have any questions, I can see the chat. Donnie seems to be going right on along with me, which I appreciate. If you wanna throw your answers in there, be my guest. What is nitrification? A, the biological reduction of ammonia to nitrate. B, the biological oxidation of ammonia to nitrite to nitrate. C, the biological oxidation of ammonia to nitrite. Or D, the biological reduction of ammonia to nitrate. Which one of those? The answer is B, biological oxidation, not reduction, oxidation of ammonia to nitrite first, NO2, to nitrate, NO3. NH3, know what NH3 is, to NO2 to NO3, okay? Know that that's ammonia, all right? Which condition is most likely to cause brown stable foam in an activated sludge system? A, low MLSS. B, filamentous bacteria such as nocardia. C, excessive RAS pumping. D, high DO levels. Which condition is most likely to cause brown stable foam in an activated sludge system? The answer is B. There you go, yeah. Nice to see you. B, filamentous bacteria, which, spoiler alert, a few people out there know this, that I've been texting with. Christian, who's popped off the chat, I'm dealing with this right now in my plant. It reared its head, and I had a foam over yesterday. It was a lot of fun. So even those of us that have been doing this a long time, especially in a plant like mine that have to run such a high MLSS and a low F to M, these guys will sneak up. We had a temperature swing. I think that had something to do with it. And yeah, it was a really adventurous afternoon yesterday. We got it under control, but Nocardia is a bear. I think it's Nocardia. We're gonna do some microscopic analysis on it. But anyway, just so you're aware, filamentous bacteria. Which process is most effective for phosphorus removal? A, a trickling filter. B, chemical precipitation with alum or ferric. B, aerobic digestion. Or D, chlorination. Most effective for phosphorus removal. I put this in for those who are not in California. I have not ever, grades 1 through 5, gotten a phosphorus question. If I did, it was forgettable, because I don't remember ever getting a phosphorus question. But you should still know it, because you never know when they're going to pull it out on you. But yeah, B, chemical precipitation with alum or ferric chloride. Of these options is the most effective for phosphorus removal. And remember, on multiple choice, it's the best answer. I forgot to clarify that. Some answers could be somewhat plausible. Your job is to pick the best answer, okay? And the best answer, oftentimes, not always, is the one with the most information in it. So if there's two that are really close and they both look right to you, and you're just spinning your wheels and you don't know which one to pick, if it were me sitting in that chair, I would pick the one that's more well explained. Hi Kyle, thanks for participating. Kyle Boo answered. Number 4, in anaerobic digestion, volatile acids accumulate when A, the digester is underfed, B, methanogens are inhibited, C, the digester temperature is too high, or D, both B and C. When in this situation, when do volatile acids accumulate? And this is going to be D. Methanogens are inhibited because they consume the volatile acid. They eat it. So if they're inhibited, volatile acids are going to accumulate. And when the digester temperature is too high, that also inhibits methanogens. These are really sensitive guys, all right? They want things to be just right, Goldilocks, okay? So that would be your answer. Really understand what's going on in an anaerobic digester for your exam. 5, which of the following is not a typical indicator of effective secondary treatment? A, low effluent BOD, B, low effluent TSS, C, pin flock in the secondary clarifier, D, an SVI of 120. Which of the following is not a typical indicator of effective secondary treatment? The answer is C. An SVI of 120 is fine, but if you've got pin flock in the secondary, that is indicating that, in my experience, I typically see pin flock when it's a really old sludge, like an SVI of under 80 kind of situation. An SVI of 120 is fine. Of course, these two are fine. Pin flock in the secondary, if you've ever seen it, it's going over the weirs because it can't settle. It's going into the effluent, TSS. 6, which organism is typically associated with bulking sludge in activated sludge systems? Which organism is typically associated with bulking sludge in activated sludge systems? A, Nitrosomonas, I've heard it pronounced. Nitrosomonas is how I say it. Nitrobacter is B. C, Microthrix. D, Rotifers. Which one of those would be associated with bulking sludge? The answer? Microthrix. It's a filament. You should know your filaments. The ones you're going to be asked about are Microthrix and Nocardia from my experience. I can't guarantee it, but the ones that are like type 241, blah, 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 that's just a little over the top. I think I have run into a Microthrix question and I have run into a Nocardia question before. Number 7, how does ferric chloride prevent struvite? A, its low pH burns the struvite before it can form. B, ferric chloride is not capable of preventing struvite. C, it binds the phosphorus so the magnesium and ammonium cannot bond with it. D, when mixed with lime, it generates enough heat to prevent struvite formation. Of those, what's the best answer for how does ferric chloride prevent struvite? C, Donnie, very good. That's right. It binds the phosphorus so the magnesium and ammonium cannot bond with it. That is your answer. Just simply put, the rest of those options are ridiculous. So yeah, understand struvite, and understand that struvite, I think it's called phosphorus, magnesium, ammonium, or I forget the actual name of it, but those are the 3 elements you need to create struvite, which is a big problem in anaerobic digesters. Number 8, when operating a wastewater treatment plant with 2 trickling filters, you lose your primary clarifier. How would you adjust flow to the trickling filters to ensure proper secondary treatment? A, run the filters in parallel. B, increase recirculation. C, decrease recirculation. D, run the filters in series. So on this one, I've written it a certain way because I'm guiding you to the answer that I believe you would be asked for, because I have run into this question or something like it. It was years and years ago, but yeah, the answer, Donnie, you were absolutely right, is D. Run the filters in series. You lose your primary clarifier. That's the key. Okay? You have to assume if you have 2 trickling filters, they're already running in parallel. Okay? You've lost your primary. What are you going to do? You're going to run 1 trickling filter here, and this will be your roughing filter, which acts kind of like a primary clarifier, and then you're going to move to the next one, and this will be your secondary. If it's a standard rate, it's probably now a high rate. So yeah, this is what we're looking for. You're going to want to run the filters in series. 9. Which of the following organisms are the primary consumers? Well, I wrote that weird. I'll just read it in a way that makes sense. Which of the following organisms are the primary consumers of the organic waste in the wastewater? A, bacteria. B, stock ciliates. C, rotifers. D, both B and C. the primary consumers of the organic waste in the wastewater? The answer here, which trips people up because so much emphasis is put on these guys, it's actually the bacteria. A. The bacteria consume most, they do the heavy lifting, okay? Stock ciliates and rotifers are grazers. They consume the bacteria. They're like coliform when we're looking for disinfection and stuff. That's kind of a way to describe stock ciliates and rotifers. They're indicator organisms of what's going on in the sludge. They are actually eating the bacteria. Indirectly, they're consuming BOD, but what they're looking for when they ask this question is that you understand the bacteria are the ones that are actually doing the primary consumption of the BOD in the wastewater. Speaking of which, let's talk about BOD. What is biochemical oxygen demand? A, what the microbes consume in aeration. B, the amount of oxygen required by the microbes to consume the organic matter. C, a direct measurement of the organic matter in the wastewater. D, the amount of oxygen required to consume all biodegradable and chemical waste in the wastewater. Which one of those is the best definition of BOD, biochemical oxygen demand? Yep, Donnie, you got it. B. The amount of oxygen required by the microbes to consume the organic matter. What microbes consume in aeration? Do they consume DO in aeration? Sure. Yeah, they consume the BOD, I guess you could say, but this isn't the best answer. This is actually kind of like something we would say as a peripheral statement, but this B is the best answer. D, all biodegradable and chemical, that's actually referring to something called COD. Okay, that is not BOD, and it is not C. It's an indirect measurement of the organic matter in the wastewater. So B is correct. 11. What is is that on there twice? Oh, sorry. Okay, 12. Which microbe is responsible for converting ammonia to nitrite? A, Nitrosomonas, B, Nitrobacter, C, Microthrix, D, rotifers. Which one of those converts ammonia to nitrite? The answer, A, goes Nitrosomonas and then Nitrobacter. Nitrobacter converts nitrite to nitrate. So this Nitrosomonas, or Somonos, however you pronounce it, is an H3 to NO2. Nitrobacter is NO2 to NO3. Microthrix is a filament. Rotifers is an indicator of sludge stability. I got to go watch your vid again. Oh, yeah. Abby's here. And if Abby, I don't know if you heard me, I gave you a shout out earlier for letting me bounce some ideas off you. Yeah, Donnie, go watch my nitrification, denitrification video. I really go into this big time. This is a fun one. This is a very grade 3 level thing you can experience or expect to experience. Okay, when experiencing sludge bulking, your SVI is over 200, an MLSS of 1,500 milligrams per liter, and an F to M ratio of 0.4. What's the most likely cause of the bulking? A, filamentous bacteria preventing sludge settling. B, old and highly oxidized sludge that won't settle. C, RAS rate is too high. D, young sludge that won't settle. Which one of those would you guess with an SVI over 200, MLSS of 1,500, and F to M of 0.4? The answer is D. This is young sludge. Where'd my pen go? There it is. D, young sludge. B, old and highly oxidized sludge that won't settle. No, not with an MLSS of 1,500 and F to M of 0.4. You'd see the older your sludge gets, the higher your MLSS goes and the lower your F to M goes. Okay, you could still have an SVI of over 200, but typically old and highly oxidized sludge is going to fall like a rock. Filamentous bacteria, probably not because of these scenarios. Filaments like really low F to Ms, that's not low. And they like high MLSS situations, that's not high. So in this situation, the best answer is going to be young sludge that won't settle with these factors, okay? This is why the grade 3 gets tough, is because you got to kind of think about, you know, I've seen old and highly oxidized sludge that did settle well, but left pin flock behind, okay? But that's not the scenario I'm creating here. 14, why would a secondary clarifier sludge blanket float to the top of aeration? If you see this, what's going on? A, filamentous bacteria preventing sludge settling. B, denitrification in the secondary clarifier. C, too low of a sludge blanket. D, when performing an SVI calculation, your SV30 is 200 milliliters per liter. Which one of those is the best answer for why a secondary clarifier sludge blanket would float? Donnie, absolutely. B, denitrification in the secondary clarifier. This is why. That's just what happens. And to fix this, you would probably, in the short term, increase your RAS to get it moving a little faster, but in the long term, you probably either need to put a second, or not put a second clarifier online, I'm sorry, take a clarifier offline or waste a little bit more. That's gonna be, or you could also increase DO. There's a lot of fixes for it, but DO and aeration could do it too. But that's really gonna be plant specific on how you're gonna solve this. But yeah, that's what's actually happening is denitrification in the secondary clarifier, gas bubbles float the blanket. 15, which of the following is not part of a centrifuge? A, scroll, B, belt tensioner, C, pool, D, bowl. Which is not part of a centrifuge? The answer is belt tensioner. That's part of a belt press. So you should understand screw presses, centrifuges, and belt presses, but if I was going to tell you that you need to study something the most, I would say for your grade 3, really lean into the belt press and understand centrifuges. For your grades 4 and 5, you need to know both equally. I don't recall screw press questions, but again, you never know what they're gonna ask you. But understand all the parts and moving pieces of those two, the belt press and the centrifuge. What is the expected solids content when leaving a gravity thickener? A, 1 to 2%, B, 3 to 6%, C, 7 to 10%, D, 10 to 15%. What is the expected solids content when leaving a gravity thickener? The answer here is B, 3 to 6%. That's a good target. You want it thick enough where you've optimized, your thickener actually is useful. 7 to 10 is a little thick, Donnie. It's a little on the thick side. 3 to 6% is good going to digestion. And then from there, I mean, you're still sending 3 to 6% typically to a dewatering press or screw or centrifuge, and then it'll come out at like, it depends on what you're dewatering. I mean, WAS could be 14 to 18% primary. Oh, we got a new member. Yaya just joined. Welcome to Chief Operator. I think that's what that means. Thank you, Yaya, for joining the membership. Actually, Christian joined, and there's another person that joined yesterday. I'm going to do shout outs to you guys in a future video. Thank you so much for joining, Yaya. And we're going to do by the way, if you do join the Chief Level Operator membership on the channel, we will do a live stream for just members on probably the week of Christmas, because I don't expect to be putting out a bunch of videos that week. And I think it'd be good to do like a 30-minute to 40-minute chat like this, and you can just bring whatever you have to that live stream. It'll be for members only. Donnie says, I got so many thickener type questions and we don't do any of that. Yeah, man, that's the real thing. So just sidebar, I'm gonna burn a little time here. Somebody asked me, why is the pass rate so low? Why is the pass rate so low for the grade 3? And the first answer I gave them is, if you look, there's a lot of reasons, but if you look at smaller plants, you're gonna have a higher pass rate for people in smaller plants because they touch everything every day. The odds that they're gonna score 70% is higher. You get people in big, huge plants, and they're on the belt press this month, and they're not refreshing their knowledge base every single day. It's hard. And so when you get a series of questions, especially like on a process you don't have, like that happened to me with ferric chloride. I actually never used ferric chloride until after I was a grade 3 operator, and then I used it, of course. But I was getting peppered with ferric chloride questions, and I was like, I don't know. It sounds right, but I guessed on a lot of those. So yeah, it can be tough. Number 17, what is the purpose of pickets on a gravity thickener? This one's for you, Donnie. What's the purpose of pickets on a gravity thickener? A, to mix the sludge properly. B, to measure the sludge blanket depth. C, to push the sludge towards the hopper. Or D, to release trapped gas in newly separated water. Which one of those is the purpose of the pickets on a gravity thickener? And the answer? D, to release the trapped gas in newly separated water. As the pickets move through, so in a gravity thickener, your detention time is so long. I mean, it's I think upwards of a day, upwards of 24 hours in these things, maybe longer if memory serves. Well, the sludge is going to go septic, right? It's going to do what's called gasification. And if it's allowed to do this, it'll float that blanket, like think about denitrification, right? So what these pickets do is they move through, And as liquid-solid separation is occurring and gasification is occurring, these pickets that are on the scraper arms will actually release gas and water, and it'll float to the top, okay? And then that supernatant moves on, the water moves on, and the gas just off gases. So that is the correct answer. That's what's going on with the pickets on a gravity thickener. 18. What would be the most likely cause of an imbalance in the volatile acid alkalinity ratio? A, overfeeding primary sludge to the anaerobic digester. B, drawing too much finished sludge off the anaerobic digester. C, decanting too much turbid water from an aerobic digester. D, both A and B. Which one of those would most likely cause an imbalance in the volatile acid alkalinity ratio? The answer is D. Absolutely, Donnie. Both A and B. Overfeeding, acid formers move faster than the methane formers do. So they're going to produce way too much acid if you're overfeeding. Drawing too much finished sludge off is you're drawing alkalinity out. Okay, so you want to. It's all about maintaining a proper SRT there in sludge retention time in your digester. And decanting too much turbid water from an aerobic digester, that was a red herring. That's silly because you don't worry about a volatile acid alkalinity ratio in an aerobic digester. There's a totally different process. 19, which of the following statements is not true about contact stabilization activated sludge process? Which of the following statements is not true? A, the return activated sludge is re-aerated in the stabilization tank. B, influent wastewater is introduced in steps throughout the aeration basin. C, the process is less susceptible to toxic shock loads compared to conventional activated sludge. D, the stabilization tank has a higher MLSS than the contact or otherwise known as reaction tank. Which one of those statements is not true about contact stabilization? The answer is B. Influent wastewater is introduced in steps throughout the aeration basin. That's what's called step feed. Okay, that is not contact stabilization. Donnie, I see you said C, the process is less susceptible to toxic shock. So let me show you what contact stabilization looks like. Here's your contact tank. Influence coming here. Okay, and then you have secondary clarifier here. So contact, clarifier, and then here's your RAS, and it goes into this stabilization tank. Stabilization. Here it's re-aerated, okay, and then it comes back this way, and here's your influent. It's stabilized in here, and it's re-aerated, and your MLSS in here is way higher than in here. And so here's your inventory. And so if you get a toxic shock load coming in, what happens? It nukes everything in here, but guess what? Everything here is perfectly fine. So the process is way less susceptible to toxic shock loads compared to conventional activated sludge, which doesn't have this second stabilization tank. Okay, that's contact stabilization in a quick nutshell. Should really look more into it. And Jose, thank you, Jose, for joining. We have a new member as well, Jose Vargas. He says, welcome to the Chief Operator. You are also going to be included in that members only live stream later this month. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll give you guys a shout out in a future video. 20. One operational concern when using ferric chloride is A, excessive foaming, B, corrosion and staining of equipment, C, disinfection byproducts, D, formation of hydrogen sulfide gas. Which one of those is correct? Operational concern when using ferric. The answer? B. You don't have to worry about foaming with ferric. That's not a thing. Disinfection byproduct is not, it's not a disinfectant. And formation of hydrogen sulfide gas, no, it actually helps prevents the formation of hydrogen sulfide gas. Penguins, nice to see you. I was a little confused on your comment, Penguins, about the fog. I didn't know how to respond to it with the dirt and aeration. I've never heard of that, but if it works for you, man, get it. 21. What is one advantage of using drying beds rather than a belt filter press? BFP. What is one advantage of using drying beds rather than a belt filter press? Dirt is microbes. Okay. Chief Squeezy Poop turns everything orange. Yes, oh my God. Dirt is living. I've never done that, Penguins. If that works for you, I've just never heard of that. I actually asked a few other operators, have you ever put dirt in an aeration basin? And it was no, but hey man, one thing I'll never do on this channel is tell people how to run their plant. I'm gonna stick to the, I will stick to the textbook stuff, but I saw, actually Abby sent me something because I've got an issue with some foaming in my plant right now. Abby sent me a material from a company that has, it's a BOD, like a synthetic BOD in essence, and they said it's better than glycerin and dog food. And it made me chuckle that that's actually on a cut sheet for, there you go, thank you, Abby, Aquafix. That on a cut sheet for a product that says it's better than dog food, because I have seen people throw dog food in aeration to fix a F to M problem. So I've never done it, but I've seen it. Actually, if you're curious where I saw it, it was at Big Bend National Park. The operator there, they were feast and famine, and he would dump dog food bags into his complete mix aeration basin. Pretty interesting. Dirt is organic. I don't run plants. Organic is the O in BOD. Oh, I see. Okay, well, okay. I've never seen that, but okay, let's see. Let's get back to this. What is the one advantage using drying beds? And the answer is A, minimal operator involvement. I didn't read through all that because I went on a tangent. Sorry about that. Minimal operator involvement. Drying beds are 100% dependent on the weather. Less space, no, you need tons of space, and odors are less of a consideration than with a belt filter press. So what I would recommend you do, something I didn't put in this training, was the what they call the multiple choice essay questions. All those are longer multiple choice questions. They present scenarios, you read the scenario, and then you pick the statement. I'm just going to say right now, if without being too specific, you should really understand the difference between dewatering devices and drying beds. I mean, that is something that I've seen, yeah, that's where I'll leave it because I don't want to get in trouble with the water boards if they watch this and go, oh, you're being too specific. But just, you should really understand the pros and cons of each. The drying bed has a pro, and the belt press and the centrifuge has a pro. And they also have cons, okay? So understand them. Your new permit requires your conventional activated sludge plant to now nitrify. What operational adjustments will most likely be necessary? A, increase MCRT. B, increase F to M ratio. C, increase blower speed and run times. And D, both A and C. Which of these process control adjustments do you need to make if you have to nitrify? Donnie, absolutely. Both A and C. The answer is D. Both A and C. You got to get those nitrifiers up and increase blower speed and run times. The other thing you might get is, this is more of a grade 4 and 5, but you might see it on the 3. Like, what's a drawback of having to do this? And one of those things is going to be increased power costs because you got to run the blowers more. Something else to be aware of when you increase your MCRT, you actually have to waste less, like over a long period of time because the sludge is thicker. And yeah, just be aware of that. Sludge is thicker. You don't have to waste as much to maintain your MLSS and aeration. And I'm going to dive deeper into that in my grade 4 and 5 version of this live stream, which is, I'm thinking January. This took a lot more effort to build than I thought it would, and the grade 4 and 5 is involved. So let me, I'll get back to you on when I'm going to do that one. I'm hoping mid-January, but we'll see. In which of these locations is an ORP useful? A, anaerobic zone. B, anoxic zone. C, chlorine contact chamber. Or D, all of the above. In which of these locations is an ORP useful? ORP stands for oxidation reduction potential. And the answer is D, all of the above. You can use these everywhere. They're really cool. I've got one in my anoxic zone. I've got one in my chlorine contact chamber. I use one after dechlorination. Anaerobic. This is what's cool about an ORP is it will tell you if you're anoxic or anaerobic. The dissolved oxygen sensor can only go so low, and if you hit 0 on it, you could have no dissolved oxygen, but you could still have nitrates in there. And the ORP is going to tell you where you're at. I go into that on my nitrification, denitrification whiteboard lesson. So go back and read that. And I also did a whole thing on ORP, a whole whiteboard on oxidation reduction potential. So you should look at that too. When analyzing MLSS under a microscope, you notice a predominance of rotifers. What does this indicate? A, high sludge age and high MCRT. B, low sludge age and low MCRT. C, high sludge age and low MCRT. Or D, low sludge age and high MCRT. Which one of these would you expect if you saw a predominance of rotifers? Donnie, absolutely. A. So these are correlated. The sludge age and MCRT are kind of the same thing, just slightly different measurements. I did a video on this too, what the difference between those two are. If you want the gold standard of activated sludge process control when it comes to wasting and returning and all that stuff, look up this guy named Ron Triger. I'm not even gonna try to replicate what he did. He's been doing this for a long time. His videos are on Vimeo. They are not on YouTube. He's got like an hour and a half lecture on what happens when you increase wasting, what happens when you decrease wasting when it comes to F to M ratio, when it comes to MCRT, and these things, okay? Check him out, really good, Ron Triger. He's out of Gainesville, Florida. Number 24, brown shaggy growth on an RBC indicates what? A, healthy zooglial film. B, toxic load is killing the zooglial film. C, algae is competing with the zooglial film for food. Or D, organic overload. What does brown shaggy growth on an RBC indicate? Penguins got it. A, healthy zooglial film. That's what you want to see. If you see it go dark and slimy, that's the bad day. And if it were C, that would be green. And definitely don't want algae. A lot of, not all, RBCs are covered because of this. So there's only so much real estate on there. White, what is white? Is that a toxic load, Forgot about white. It's like an ashy look. I remember that from something. Yeah, thanks, Thank you. And if you think I missed something, by the way, I'll always say, if you want to add something, please put it in the comments because I don't know everything. That's a fact, but I know enough to help you guys get through your tests. Number 25, which parameter can be used to calculate percent capture efficiency on a gravity belt thickener? Which parameter can be used to calculate percent capture efficiency? White spores? White spores? Could be. I don't think it would be a mold though. A white or a black penguin would, I think, be a toxic load of some kind, but I'd have to look in that. So back to this question, which parameter can be used to calculate percent capture efficiency on a gravity belt thickener? A, filtrate BOD, B, filtrate TSS, C, volatile solids content, or D, centrate turbidity? And the answer is filtrate TSS. That's going to help you get your percent capture efficiency. That's about all I can tell you on that one. You're just going to subtract what went in versus what's coming out in your filtrate, and you do a very quick math problem on that. Let's see what we got. Donnie says B. Yep. I don't know. Yeah. So, penguins, sometimes when I worked for state parks, we called it the state park salute, which was this. Sometimes things work themselves out, and sometimes we don't have an answer. And you do your best, and that's when we learn. It's oftentimes it's a little concerning when you're running a plant and you don't have the answer, but it's also a time for growth and to put your thinking cap on and learn. So I think it's great. And Frank says, first time here. Thanks for your content. Thanks for coming here, Frank. I really appreciate you being in here and throwing something in the chat. Number 26. Which statement best explains how the multiple tube fermentation method produces an enumerated result for coliforms? A, it counts colonies directly on a membrane after filtration. B, it records the number of tubes that produce gas and converts the pattern into an MPN value. C, it measures fluorescence from enzyme reactions to total the number of coliforms. D, it uses a color change reagent to count individual bacteria. Pink and orange can be indicators for compound-specific algae. Yeah, yep, absolutely. So the answer here is B, multiple tube fermentation. It records the number of tubes that produce gas, okay? The color change reagent is more of a Coley alert or a quantitray. The fluorescence is confirming the presence of fecal. Counts colonies directly on membrane after filtration. This is the membrane filtration method. But the gas in the tubes, that's right, penguins, lactic acid gas. That's what I was getting at. Yep. And this is the tricky part of these exams, is they're going to word it, and it's like, oh, I know that because I've seen that. And it's like, no. What we're going at here is the Coley alert or the quantitray. Be aware of that. And this is where the best answer comes in. The best answer would be the, and the other, the signal there, penguins, that D was wrong, if you wanted to argue with them, is they count individual bacteria. No, MPN. Multiple tube fermentation is more of a statistical. Penguins, this is like real-time flashcards. This is awesome. Great, I'm glad you're having fun, Penguin. I'm having fun too. This is great. My boss, actually, I told him, I'm taking a long lunch to do this of 2.5 hours. I actually stretched it out. And he's coming by the plant a little later, and he said he might actually pop in and photobomb my live stream. I said, please do. I think everybody would love to see the guy that approved this YouTube channel, because if he hadn't given me approval, well, I wouldn't be standing here doing this. And so anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. Which statement is not true regarding I&I? A, I&I contributes to lower HRT, which leads to incomplete secondary treatment. B, heavier flows dilute incoming BOD, so there isn't enough food entering the plant. C, during a storm event, a trickling filter may become hydraulically overloaded. D, increased flows cause turbulence in the secondary clarifier, leading to biomass washout. So this is a tough one, because one of these, and this is the type of question you should expect, one might look at this and go, well, those are all true. And that's what you need to be aware of on these exams, is they're going to give you stuff that's looks like it's all true. And Yaya got it. B, heavier flows dilute incoming BOD, so there isn't enough food entering the plant. Heavier flows will dilute BOD, but the issue is, oh wow, look at this. What's going on in the, somebody sent 5. I don't know what's going on in the chat. Chief Squeezy Poop, what'd you just do? I can't read what that is. Received a gift membership. Did you just pay for 5 people's memberships, Chief Squeezy Poop? If you did, I really appreciate that. That's really awesome, man. Thank you. So here's what's going on in here. I&I does contribute to lower HRT. You just don't have the detention time for secondary treatment. During a storm event, man, Chief Squeezy Poop, you're a rock star, man. Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you on behalf of all those people that you just bought a membership for. I think you did, I don't know which level you did, but I'm assuming you did the chief operator. I can't see it, but if you did the chief operator, you guys can all come to the, what am I trying to say? The members only and live stream, and that'll be available for you if you didn't, if you can't make it, there'll be a replay. Okay, during a storm event, a trickling filter may become hydraulically overloaded. Absolutely. Increased flows cause turbulence in the secondary clarifier, leading to biomass. Absolutely. The heavier flows, and this is an interesting point. The amount of food that's coming into the plant has not changed. Okay, so there isn't enough food entering the plant. Doesn't make any sense. Now the BOD is diluted, and what's going on is there's so much flow going through the plant that the biology doesn't have the time, the hydraulic retention time, to treat it. Okay, that's kind of what's going on. Chief Squeezy Poop, you're a rock star, man. Thank you so much for that. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the live stream later in December. Who issues the permit for a permit required confined space entry? Who issues this permit? A, OSHA, B, the company or agency doing the entry, C, the fire department, or D, the EPA? Which one of those outfits issues the permit? And I didn't even know this until I was on my first confined space, permit required confined space entry. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. The answer is B. Absolutely, Donnie. The employer does it. And then you file it. You don't even give it to anybody. You close it out when you're done with the entry and you file it away. Yeah, that's it. Who's ready for some math? Let me get my answer key, because these math problems are no joke. So I need notes for this. Got my calculator here. And kept on record. Yep, Penguins, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you file it away. You keep it on record for 1 year. 1 year is the records retention on that. I don't think you'll be asked about that. This is not an OSHA 40 class. This is just I don't think you need to know that level. So you might see some numbers, like number 3 right here. Don't let that throw you off. That is my corresponding number. This training I have given in person at Tri-State. So what I did, it corresponds with my actual answer key. Okay, so that's why you see the number 3 there. A facility has an aeration tank volume of 1 million gallons. The secondary clarifier is 750,000 gallons. The MLSS concentration is 2,800 milligrams per liter. And the effluent suspended solids is 15 milligrams per liter. The influent flow is 9 million gallons per day. And the target MCRT is 10 days. What is the WAS rate required in GPM to meet this target if the WAS concentration is 7,500 milligrams per liter? I did a similar version of this on my wasting rate video I did a few weeks ago. If you want to go watch that, and then I get into wasting a little bit more in detail in that video. But let's just work this out. This is going to be, lightning round. This equation is pounds MLSS in the secondary system, including the secondary clarifier, divided by MCRT in days, minus effluent TSS. And I didn't give you A, B, C, or D. We're just going to work this out together because I don't think to have the options, unless you're cruising, you're not going to go faster than me because I've got my notes here. Divided by WAS concentration times 8.34 pounds in a gallon of water. Okay, this, in essence, this top part turns into a reverse pi. Okay, so let's move through this pretty quick. 1.75. 1.75 million gallons per day. Jeez, hold on. It's only been an hour. I'm already starting to make these mistakes. Erase that. Start over. 1.75 mgd times 8.34 times what? 2,800 milligrams per liter. Now, I might have lost some of you. Let me explain what just happened. Why 1.75 million gallons? Actually, not per day. Again, sorry. Pretend I didn't write that. I'm just so used to writing MGD. That messes the formula up if I did that. MG. Why did I do that? Because it's the secondary system. 1 million gallons plus 750,000 gallons is 1.75 mg. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm doing on the pounds formula, please put that, or not put that, please go watch my pounds formula video, all right? And I just gotta, thanks for doing this, Shawn, just passed my 3. Congratulations, Christopher. It's really awesome, man. I'm really happy to hear that. And Donnie Brasco, Christian has a great video on this too. Yes, go check out California Wastewater. I mean, we pretty much do the same thing. He explains it in his own way. And I think you can't watch this from too many people because everybody has a different way of explaining it. Okay. Divided by 10 days, MCRT, that's my target MCRT, minus my effluent TSS. Influent flow is 9 mgd. If they don't give you the effluent flow or the plant processes, this is the only one they give you, this is what you use. 9 mgd times 8.34 pounds in a gallon of water times, where is it? 15 milligrams per liter. Where did I get that one from? Right here, effluent suspended solids. Divided by WAS concentration, 7,500 milligrams per liter, times 8.34 pounds in a gallon. Okay, bring it down here. If you work that out on your calculator, and if you're working at it on a calculator, I guess I could do it. I mean, I've worked these problems out 1 billion times, but let me just make sure I'm not writing the wrong numbers down. 1.75 times 8.34 times 2,800, 40,866 divided by 10. This gives me 4,086.6. Let's just keep it, yeah, we'll do the decimal. 4,086.6 pounds per day. Why pounds per day? Pounds are up here. I divide it by 10 days. That gives me pounds per day. And now I can subtract from this number, which is, see, I've got MGD in here. 9 MGD times 8.34 times 15 gives me 1,125.9 pounds per day. So now my units work. Divided by 7,500. I'm going to leave this alone because this is what I like to do here. For those who like the Davidson pi, it's just the easiest way to teach this. If you do your math differently, that's fine, so long as you come up with the correct answer. That's what matters. It doesn't matter that you do it my way. So when you do 4,086.6 minus 1,125.9, that's 2,960.7 pounds per day. I'm going to do a little Davidson pi for you so you know what I'm doing here. 7,500 milligrams per liter, 8.34. Okay, divided by 2,960 divided by 7,500 divided by 8.34 gives me 0.047 mgd. Okay, but the question is asking me for, where is it? WAS rate in GPM. Okay, so now what's 0.047 mgd in gallons per day? It's 47,000 gallons per day. How did I get that? 0.047 times a million, okay, is 47,000 gallons per day. If you can't do that in your head like second nature, you're going to struggle on the grade 3. So you should be able to just flop in and out of MGD and know what I'm talking about there, okay? So from here, you just divide by 1,440 minutes in a day. I'm not going to go through the whole unit conversion thing, guys. It's more drawn out on my video on this. So if you're confused about how the units convert, plop it in the chat and we can go over it, or go watch that video. But this is just kind of what we're doing right now. So I've converted the days to minutes. So now I've got gallons per minute, and that's 33.57. We'll just call it 33.5 GPM. This is what you would set your WAS pump at. That is how you do the wasting rate math problem, okay? Let's move on. A wastewater treatment plant has an influent flow of 2 MGD with a BOD concentration of 250 milligrams per liter. The aeration tank volume is 1 million gallons, and the F to M ratio is 0.2 pounds BOD per day per pound MLVSS. Calculate the MLVSS concentration in milligrams per liter and the MLSS in pounds, assuming the volatile fraction is 75%. I did this video as well. It's the thumbnail, I forget what I called it, but the thumbnail is me, my head kind of peeking in the side, and you'll see the RAS next to my head, and I'm pointing at the camera, and you'll see some of these variables on there. Go watch this for greater detail, but let me just show you, and this is actually how Christian does it on his channel. There's another way to do it that I like to do, but I think this explains it a little bit better. So the first thing we're gonna do, we have to figure out, we're given the F to M ratio. What they wanna know is the MLVSS concentration and the MLSS pounds. So what we're gonna do is we're going to figure out for every pound of BOD, how many pounds of MLVSS I have, and then we're gonna just do a reverse F to M ratio. So how you do this is you take the solid number 1, since the ratio is relative to the number 1, divide by 0.2, and that gives me 5. So what does this mean? This means for every pound of BOD, I have 5 pounds MLVSS, all right? So now, it's a very simple thing to do. You just take your influent flow rate, 2 MGD, times 8.34, times 250 milligrams per liter. Now let me stop for a second. If you are given a primary clarifier effluent number, which I didn't do in this math problem, I just went with the influent. If you have a primary clarifier effluent, that is the number you use, because that is the number that's going into aeration, okay? I hope that helps. So when you do that math, that gives you 4,170 pounds BOD per day, okay? Now, you're going to take 4,170 pounds and multiply it by 5, because we have our pounds. Now we're trying to find out our pounds MLVSS, and that should give you 20,850 pounds MLVSS. I have seen this part of the problem show up 2 different ways. On my grade 3, I believe what we're doing right now is how you're going to see it. On my grade 4, it was the other way around, I think. I'm remembering correctly, but I have seen it. So on one version, you might have to find the pounds of MLVSS and the concentration of MLSS, or like we're doing it now, the concentration MLVSS and the pounds MLSS. Just pay attention to what they're asking you for. Okay, so to find the MLVSS concentration, we're going to do a reverse pounds formula. And so what that is 20,850 divided by what? 1. Aeration tank volume is 1 mg, 1 million gallons. Divided by 1, divided by 8.34 pounds in a gallon. So this is just a reverse pounds formula. And that gives you 2,500 milligrams per liter MLVSS. Okay, that's my MLVSS concentration. How did I get that? I took pounds and just did a reverse pounds formula using the size in MGD, the volume in MGD of aeration, and the weight of a gallon of water. Okay, now I have to figure out the pounds of the pounds of MLSS. That's the other part of this question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this, I'm going to come down here with it. I already have my pounds, 20,850 pounds ml/VSS, assuming the volatile fraction is 75%, okay, divided by 0.75. Because I already have my volatile fraction, I need the full amount. MLSS is everything, including the inert. So in order to do that, we divide by 0.75, and that should give us 27,800 pounds MLSS. And again, you can see this, they might do it the other way around. So that's how you do it. It's actually very simple to move through this math problem. And because I'm doing this on a live stream, it's a little less polished. I don't get a chance to like erase the whole problem and start over again. If this threw you off, you can always go watch that video that I did on this. I did a whole dedicated video on it. Frank asked, will math section be posted later for review? Absolutely, this whole thing is going to be available, posted, open to the public for everybody for review. So yes. Number 9 on my answer key. Let's get over here. A treatment plant processes 5 mgd of water. The target dose for sodium hypochlorite is 2 milligrams per liter, and the solution contains 12% sodium hypochlorite by weight with a specific gravity of 1.2. Calculate the chemical feed pump rate in milliliters per minute. Okay? So we're setting a chemical feed pump. How do we do this? First and foremost, I'm going to talk about specific gravity. What is this? This is the weight of the chemical relative to the weight of weight of a gallon of water. Okay? So what I do is I take my specific gravity. In this case, it's 1.2. Multiply it by 8.34 pounds in a gallon of water, and that'll give me 10 pounds per gallon. I need this in order to convert to gallons per day. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is come down here. I'm just going to do my pounds formula. 5 mgd times 8.34 pounds in a gallon times 2 milligrams per liter equals 83.4 pounds per day of chlorine is needed. However, my sodium hypochlorite is 12% strength. It is not 100% strength. If I was doing gas chlorine, I would stop right here. Let's see. Donnie says, I'll get back with you later. Shawn, thank you again, buddy. Gotta go take care of the plant. Thank you, Chief, as well. Absolutely, Donnie. And come on back and watch the replay when you're ready. And I'll see you in the members only live stream, Donnie. I really appreciate you coming in. Yeah, go take care of your plant, man. So if you were doing gas chlorine, you would stop right here. But we're not doing gas chlorine. So now what I have is I have a solution that's 12% strength. So 83.4 pounds divided by 0.12 gives me, let me do that real quick. It's not how I did it on my answer sheet. Divided by 0.12 gives me 695 pounds per day. So what's up with that? Pounds per day. That's because I need 695 pounds per day of chlorine at 12%. I hope that makes sense. If it was 100% strength, I'd only need 83.4 pounds. 12% strength, I need 695 pounds. Okay? Now we're going to convert it to gallons per day. So what I do is I take 695 pounds per day, and I divide it, or if you want to do the conversion factor method here, sorry, get my eraser. I should stay consistent on my teaching styles. You should see my scratch paper when I take these exams. It's absolutely horrifying because I change up the way my brain works. I'm like a squirrel seeing something shiny. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take that 10 pounds per gallon, and we're going to do 10 pounds down here per gallon. Pounds cancel out. That leaves us with gallons per day, doesn't it? Which is 69.5 gallons per day. But they're not asking for gallons per day. They're asking for milliliters per minute. So how do we do that? 69.5 gallons per day times, again, conversion factor method. One day has 1,440 minutes in a day. So days are going to cancel out. This is going to give us gallons per minute. We're not looking for gallons. We're looking for milliliters, just 3,785 milliliters per gallon. Gallons cancel out, 69.5 divided by 1,440 times 3,785 should give me about 182.6, give or take, We'll call it 182.6 milliliters per minute. You probably need multiple feed pumps for this one. That's quite the feed rate for a little pump. But yeah, that's it. That's how you do that math problem. Pretty simple. If you are given high test hypochlorite, like at 60%, you would stop here. You don't need to convert it to gallons. It's just like 65% HTH. You would do this part right here, and then you would just divide by the concentration, and then that gives you your pounds per day. Jose says, I feel like I'm taking my test again. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm doing a lot of this from memory. And remember, I have to be careful because, you get in trouble for being too specific. So what I do is I, reword it and try to be a little bit more vague. But yeah, I'm glad this is helpful, Jose. Okay, number 10. A wastewater treatment plant processes 40,000 gallons per day of waste-activated sludge to a belt press. The WAS has a TS concentration of 4% as a weight fraction. They're going to throw words like that in. Just that doesn't really mean anything. But I write that stuff in there to try to make it kind of how they write it. And a polymer dose target of 3.5 pounds polymer per ton of TS required. The polymer being used has a concentration of 41% and a density of 11.7 pounds per gallon. How many gallons per day are used? So this is probably the most complicated dewatering question I could come up with. And I did this because all the different things you need to know about dewatering math are enveloped in this. So if you can get this down, you can get, I think, most of the questions they're going to ask you about dewatering math down. So let's start with this guy. How many gallons per day are used? And this is actually a polymer question, but you got to kind of go into, oh wait, this isn't dewatering math. This is a dosing question. I'm sorry. This is a dosing calculation. Oh, never mind. I went right to belt press math. Okay, so let's do 0.04 mgd. Where did I get that? See, that's the danger in doing live. I gotta show you guys that I am human and I make mistakes. Times 40,000 milligrams per liter. Let me explain what I'm doing right here. The wastewater treatment plant processes 40,000 gallons per day of WAS. So 0.04 mgd is going to the belt press. 8.3, it's a pounds formula. 8.34 pounds in a gallon of water and 40,000 milligrams per liter. The WAS total solids concentration is 4%. 1% equals 10,000 milligrams per liter. That's where that's coming from. Okay, if you can figure this out, and the reason when I see this type of math, my brain goes right to dewatering math, because this is what you're going to experience. If you can figure this part out, you will never again be intimidated by belt press or centrifuge math. When you're talking about cake and percent solids recovery, it's actually quite simple. So what you're going to do here is you're going to do that math, and this is 13,344 pounds being fed to the belt press. Okay? Now what you're going to do is you're going to take this number, 13,344, divide it by 2,000 pounds in a ton. Why? Because your polymer target dose is 3.5 pounds per ton of TS. We have our pounds of TS right here. We don't have tons, so you got to convert it to tons. That gives you 6.7 tons. Okay? Now you do 6.7 tons. Bring it down here. I'm sorry, I'm referencing my notes here. Times 3.5 pounds polymer per ton. Tons cancel out, multiply across the top, and that's 23.45 pounds per day of polymer, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for gallons per day. So just like we just did on the last problem, we have to divide by the fraction of the concentration and the pounds per gallon. So this simply looks like this, 23.45 divided by 0.41 divided by 11.7 pounds per gallon. I have not done this math problem on my channel, I don't think. If this is throwing people off, put it in the comments and I will do a whole video explaining how these units cancel out, but believe me, they do. And this is going to be 4.9 gallons per day. Okay, that's your answer. So what did we do? Let's recap. We found our pounds per day being fed to the belt press using our flow rate and our total solids concentration. Okay, and then after we figured that out, we knew that our dose was 3.5 pounds of polymer per ton of total solids. So we just converted the weight of the solids being fed to tons, pounds to tons, and then we figured out our pounds per day of polymer because now that we have tons, we know how much polymer per ton we're using. And then we just did pounds per day to gallons per day, which is a simple dosing formula when you're doing, using liquid. That was it. Number 12. I haven't done that math problem in a long time. Even though I teach it, it's been a while, so I had to kind of shake the rust off and actually remember what I was even looking at. Number 12, the influent flow rate to a DAF system is 250 milligrams per liter. 250 GPM with a solids concentration of 9,500 milligrams per liter. Was it 120? It's too early for me to be losing my brain. The system has a surface area of 1,000 square feet. Determine the solids loading rate in pounds per hour per square foot. So when you have a DAF or a DAFT, it could be either one, dissolved air flotation thickener or dissolved air flotation. It depends on what you're using it for. You're looking for pounds per hour per square foot, not pounds per day, pounds per hour. So what you're going to do, this is how I like to teach it. I'm going to actually convert this to million gallons per hour. So I'm going to take 250 gallons per minute. I'll show you how these units work. Times, where is this one? 60 minutes in an hour. What does that give me? 15,000 gallons per hour, or if I divide by a million, 0.015 million gallons per hour. Hey, look at that. You see a pounds formula potential there. We're not doing a pound, are we doing a pounds formula? We are doing a pounds formula here. Yeah, this is where you're gonna start moving towards more advanced pounds formulas and being a little bit more freestyle with it. Why would, you need mg something, or just mg if you're doing a volume, but you need an mg of flow of some kind to do the pounds formula. So if you do 0.015 mgh, 0.015 million gallons per hour times 8.34 pounds in a gallon, times, where are we at? 9,500 milligrams per liter. That gives me 1,188 pounds per hour. The only difference is I didn't do day here. And if you were to do, 1,440 minutes in a day and then divide by 24, you'd get the same number. I'm just taking a step out, okay? So 1,188 pounds per hour. Now we're just gonna divide that by 1,000 square feet. And that gives us, I rounded up on my answer sheet to 1.2, it's 1.18. However it shows up, pounds per hour per square foot. Okay, that would be how you solve this. Now, when you get into these math problems, it might not be so simple as them just giving you the square feet. They might give you dimensions, so be able to do that, surface area, but be aware, they're gonna give you a depth probably. Don't use the depth. When you're talking about solids loading to a DAF, you're talking about the surface area, okay? Not the volume. Number 15. Over here. Oh boy. A WRRF, or a WRF, operates an anaerobic digester with a daily influent flow of 40,000 gallons per day. And the wastewater has a solids concentration of 3% VSS, volatile suspended solids, and a BOD of 1,000 milligrams per liter. Yep, that's right, Frank. Surface area, not volume. The digester's total volume is 30,000 cubic feet. Convert the units and calculate the organic loading rate in pounds of volatile solids per day per cubic foot. Just like we just did 2 slides ago. We're doing a pounds formula. Pounds of what, though? So organic loading to a digester is pounds of volatile solids per day, not BOD, even though those are very much correlated, and I'm not getting into that theory today. Just if you're given volatile solids and you're given BOD, you use the volatile solids, okay? That's how we express loading to a digester. So simply 0.04 MGD, where'd that come from? 40,000 gallons per day. MGD times 8.34 pounds in a gallon. Boy, this equation's showing up a lot, isn't it? It's all over the grade 3. Times 30,000 milligrams per liter. Where did I get that from? 3%, 1% is 10,000 milligrams per liter. Okay, that gives me 10,008 pounds per day volatile solids. And now I take the 30,000 cubic foot, just divide by 30,000, and that gives me 0.33 pounds per day volatile solids per cubic foot. Okay, very simple. Where it's going to get difficult here for you is if they give you a truncated digester, because you got to figure out the cubic feet, and then they got a truncated cylinder, and then they got a cone. You would need to figure out the volume in cubic feet and the volume in cubic feet, and then add those together. I've seen it. Be ready for it. Okay, but and I did a video on it actually. I actually took it to yet another step and gave you a sloped floor with a gradient. So that's on my channel. You should go check it out if you want to see that. Number 17, digester gas produced per pound volatile solid destroyed. A wastewater treatment plant feeds 4,000 pounds per day of sludge with a volatile solids percentage of 60% into the digester. The digested sludge has a volatile solids percentage of 40%, and the gas production is 20,000 cubic feet per day. Calculate the cubic feet of digester gas produced per pound of volatile solids destroyed. All right, first you need to figure out your pounds of volatile solids destroyed. So that equation, volatile solids reduction, in minus out, divided by in minus in times out times 100, because this is going to give you a percentage, and then this is times 100 is going to give you like the actual percentage. This will be a decimal form in this area, and I'm going to demonstrate that now. So N is what? 0.6. Volatile solids percentage of 60%, 0.6. Digested sludge has a volatile solids percentage of 40%, so this is out, minus 0.4, divided by 0.6 minus 0.6 times 0.4 times 100. So when you do this, you got to do the parentheses first here, or it's going to screw the whole thing up. So you can do the top first because that comes later. So, but you do not just go straight across. Order of operations down here. Do the parentheses first. So what this looks like is 0.2 on the top divided by 0.6. Sorry about that. That was weird. 0.6 minus 0.24, and that's 0.2 divided by 0.36, which gives you 0.556 times 100, 55.6%. Hopefully that's showing up on the side of the screen there. 55.6% volatile solids reduction. Okay, now we can get to work. Wastewater treatment plant feeds 4,000 pounds per day sludge into the digester. And calculate the cubic feet of digester gas produced per pound destroyed. So let's just take 4,000 pounds per day, but those are all the solids times 0.6. These are the volatile solids. These are the things that will be destroyed, okay? It's 2,400 pounds per day volatile solids. Don't just use that number. You gotta calculate your volatile solids, okay? Now we're gonna take 2,400 pounds volatile solids times what? Times our volatile solids reduction percentage, 0.556. And that should give us 1,334 pounds per day volatile solids destroyed. Okay? The gas production is 20,000 cubic feet per day. Calculate the cubic feet of digester gas produced per pound destroyed. So we now have our pounds, we have our cubic feet per day. So we're just going to say 20,000 cubic feet of gas divided by 1,334 pounds volatile solids destroyed gives us 15 cubic feet of gas, which is a pretty good number. That's something you can expect from a digester that's functioning well. Pretty good. So yeah, that's how you do that. This can show up a variety of ways. They could actually ask you to calculate the total cubic feet, and they're going to give you this number, 15 cubic feet. You would just rearrange it. You would instead multiply 15 times 1334 to get 20,000. So the core of this math problem, like where we started with it to here, is, those steps are pretty much going to be the same. It's going to be, what's your end goal? And then I don't imagine you're going to run into a BTU question on your 3. I didn't even run into a BTU question on my 4. I did need to know it for my 5. But again, it was just like one more level. It wasn't even that hard. and then be ready for this 4,000 pounds per day. Be ready for that to be a pounds formula. They're going to give you the GPM of the pump and blah, 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 you know, concentration. Be ready for that. All right, now we're getting into some dewatering math. Get to the right page on my answer key here. Okay. A belt press processes sludge with a feed solids concentration of 2.5% for 7 hours. The press produces 20 tons of cake solids with a concentration of 18%, and the sludge feed flow rate is 100 GPM. Calculate the dewatering efficiency of the belt press in percentage terms. This could also be percent capture efficiency. That's another way that you might see it written. So let's start at the beginning. Belt press processes sludge with a feed solids concentration of 2.5% for 7 hours. Chief Squeezy Poop says, I got to jump to Shawn. I can watch this later, correct? Appreciate you. Chief, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for joining as a member and then paying for all those people's memberships. That was great, man. And yes, this is available for everybody afterwards. Open to the public, no membership required to watch these exam preps. So thank you, Chief. You were a big help in the comments. So what we're going to do first is we're going to find out our flow rate in MGD, okay? So 7 hours is part of that. 100 GPM is another part of that. So what I'm going to do is say 100 GPM times 60 minutes in an hour times 7 hours, okay? And that gives me 42,000 gallons per day. Notice I didn't do 24 hours. This is gonna happen to you on your exam. Be ready for it. They're gonna give you how many hours per day. Do not multiply by 1440. That's a very grade 2 thing that we do. It's starting to change now, or this is more real world. You don't run a belt press. Well, I've not ever worked in a belt press that's 24/7. It's, you know, as you need it, you turn it on. And I've worked in smaller plants, admittedly. Maybe there are belt presses out there that run 24/7, but for this situation, be ready for that, okay? I'm beating the horse, I know it. The dead horse. 0.042 MGD is what this turns into for your pounds formula. Okay, now, your feed sludge concentration, what is it? 2.5%. So let's do a pounds formula here. 0.042 times 8.34 pounds in a gallon times 25,000 milligrams per liter being fed, okay? And for those of you who maybe jumped on after I've explained it, 1% is 10,000 milligrams per liter. That gives me 8,757 pounds of feed sludge going to my belt press, okay? Now, I need to figure out what my capture efficiency is because that's going to tell me if I need to make an adjustment, okay? So the press produces 20 tons of cake solids with a concentration of 18%. So let's convert tons to pounds. 20 tons times 2,000 pounds per ton is 40,000 pounds of wet cake. There is an assumption being made right here that these are your dry solids, okay? Because your gallons was 42,000 gallons per day of sludge, but your concentration was 25,000 milligrams per liter of actual solids, okay? So what we need in order for this to work is we need the dry solids, not the wet cake. What is our cake solids concentration? It's 18%. So we're just gonna take 40,000 pounds and multiply it by 0.18. And that gives us 7,200 pounds per day of solids actually coming off the belt press. Now what you do is you take the number that's coming off in your cake. So this is our cake solids. This is our feed sludge solids. 7,200 divided by 8757, and that gives me an 82% capture efficiency, which is not great. I would need to look at some stuff here. Probably got a very turbid filtrate efficiency. Probably got an issue with polymer dosing, or maybe I'm feeding it too fast. There could be a lot of different reasons I'm only getting 82% capture efficiency. So anyway, that is how you do that. And like these other problems I've explained to you, they could throw this at you a few different ways, okay? And I've done math problems on my channel in the dewatering space. So go seek those out in the playlist, the advanced and intermediate math playlists. I get into some of this on different variations of it. So hopefully that's helpful to you. Amount of cake produced, 22. Okay. Let me just start over again. See, if I wasn't live streaming, I would edit that out. A belt press processes 150 GPM of sludge for 7.5 hours per day with an influent TS concentration of 2.5% and an effluent TS concentration of 20%. The capture efficiency is 90%. See, this problem, we have the capture efficiency. And the bulk density of the cake is 75 pounds per cubic foot. How do we know that? They just measure it in a lab. That's how they figure it out. Calculate the total cubic yards of cake produced. Okay. Just like the last problem, we need to start with our MGD. So 150 GPM times 60 minutes in an hour times 7.5 hours per day gives me 67,500 gallons per day, or 0.0675 is how I did it, 0.0675 MGD. And by the way, when it comes to rounding, I do it a few different ways, and if I'm a little off on the on the answers, because on the exam they give you a multiple choice. If you're off by a couple numbers because of your rounding, you got the right answer. Assuming you did your math right. I'm making an assumption there. Because they will put wrong answers in that you might have accidentally gotten to by doing something wrong in the math problem. They're not going to have rounding errors as your answer. I've never seen that. That's a really cruel thing to do. So don't sweat rounding this to 0.6068. It's not going to move the needle that much. Just a little tip. Okay, 0.0675 times 8.34 times what? An influent concentration of 2.5% times 25,000 milligrams per liter. Okay, what does that give me? 14,074 pounds per day is being fed, all right, to what are we doing, a belt press? Yeah, to the belt press. And now we have a 90% capture efficiency. This is when they give you the capture efficiency, it makes life really easy. Because now I just have to multiply by 0.9, and that's what's coming off the belt press, a 90% capture efficiency. So 14,074 is being fed, 90% of that is 12,667 pounds per day, per day coming off. That's what's in my cake, okay? But I need to figure out the bulk density here, or not the bulk density, how much cake is going in. So I'm doing the reverse of what that math problem was that we just did. I'm actually figuring out what's going into my dumpster, okay? You'll typically see this stuff falling into like a rollaway dumpster, okay? So now, instead of multiplying by my concentration, or my dry cake solids, sorry, my 20% total solids, I'm going to divide by it. So 12,667 pounds per day coming off divided by 0.2 gives me 63,335 pounds of wet cake, okay? Pounds wet cake. Now, I'm going to take 63,335. Let me just come down here. What do we figure out in the lab? The bulk density of the cake is 75 pounds per cubic foot. So all I do is that conversion factor method. I'm just going to convert units here. 1 cubic foot has 75 pounds of cake in it. Those cancel out, and that gives me, I did this straight across on my answer sheet, so I'm going to just break it step by step for you here. 844.46, cubic feet of wet cake. But I'm not asking for cubic feet. I'm asking for cubic yards. How many cubic feet in a yard is 27? So 844.4 cubic feet. We'll just, starting a new math problem here. Times 1 cubic yard has 27 cubic feet in it. Cubic feet cancel out. This gives me 31 yards. We'll say yards, it's really cubic yards. 31 cubic yards per day cake produced. That's how you do that, okay? If you're wondering what exactly I'm doing down here with my conversions, I did a video on it, conversion factor method. Go check it out. It'll explain how I know when to put pounds on the bottom or when to put cubic feet on the bottom. I talk about it in that video. Number 26. Let's see here. We're doing good on time. Actually, a lot better than I thought I was going to be doing. Take a drink of water. I'm getting a little fatigued. My eyes are going cross-eyed. Okay. Pump down. We're going to be pumping down a wet well. The wet well on a lift station is 10 foot in diameter and 20 feet deep. The pump turns on at 7 feet and turns off at 2 feet. The inflow rate to the wet well is 150 GPM, and the pump removes water at 300 GPM. Once called for, how many minutes will it take to reduce the volume in the wet well to 2 feet? Okay. I've seen this math problem before. Not exactly this iteration, but the reason I knew to put this in the grade 3 exam prep is something like it was on my grade 3. I was not ready for it, but it's not hard. I was able to figure it out. So what we're going to have to figure out here is actually what our swing is, okay? First, imagine a wet well with the floats, or a transducer or whatever is telling the pump, kick on at 7 feet. We're going, and we're making an assumption we're going straight 100% pump. I mean, we're not doing VFDs or anything like that. We don't get to that level on these wastewater exams. So the pump turns on at 7 feet and it turns off at 2 feet. So I'm just going to say, what's 7 minus 2? That's pretty easy. 5 feet. Okay, cool. The wet well in a lift station is 10 foot in diameter. The fact that it's 20 foot deep is irrelevant to me in this math problem. What I need to know is what that swing is. So 0.785 diameter squared is how I do square feet. If you do radius, that's fine. And pi, you just need to divide. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and then you can do the pi. But I'm just going to do 10 feet times 10 feet times 5 feet. Okay? And what that gives me is 392.5 cubic feet. 0.5 cubic feet is the volume that I'm going to need to pump down. But I don't pump down in cubic feet per minute. I pump down in gallons per minute. So we got to convert this to gallons, start a new math problem, times 7.48 gallons in a cubic foot. Everybody should know that if you're taking the grade 3. And that gives you 2,936 gallons is what we're going to need to pump down. Okay? So, next part of this. The inflow rate into the wet well is 150 GPM. The pump removes the water at 300 GPM. What does that give me? 300 minus 150 is what? It's 150. That is my net removal from this lift station. Okay, 150 GPM. Well, now what do? You simply take 2,936 gallons divided by 150 gallons per minute. Gallons will cancel out. And then that's 19.57 minutes to pump this down. But they're not going to have it like that. Nobody says, oh, it took 0.57 minutes. You got to convert this right here to seconds. So 0.57 times 60 seconds in a minute, okay, gives you 34 seconds. And so your final answer is 19 minutes, 34 seconds is how long, all things being equal, and everybody that lives in the real world and has done this for any length of time knows that these numbers are fluctuating constantly. I mean, your inflow is never like always 300 GPM. It could be it moves all over the place, but it's hard to build a math problem like that. So that's the assumptions we're making, is these numbers are not changing. Number 29. Where are you? There you are. A primary clarifier produces 3,000 pounds of sludge per day. The sludge concentration is 2% total solids and the pump rate is 400 GPM. If the pump operates twice per hour, calculate the required pump runtime in minutes for each operation. Okay. So we're going to, this is kind of like the wasting rate calculation. What's going on here is you're going to be converting pounds into gallons. All right. So we have our pounds of sludge per day. We have our milligrams per liter. That's 20,000 right there. I can do a reverse pounds formula and get my gallons of sludge per day in million gallons, and then turn it into gallons. So let me demonstrate that for you. 3,000 pounds per day divided by 8.34 pounds in a gallon of water divided by 20,000 milligrams per liter. 1% is 10,000 milligrams per liter. I think I've said that a lot, but as you get into this level of math, you've got to remember that because it's important if you're going to use the pounds formula. That gives me 0.018 MGD, or 18,000 gallons per day. Okay? So now, 18,000 gallons per day. I'm going to do it like the conversion factor method so you can see my logic here. One day has 24 hours in it, doesn't it? Shouldn't be a big surprise. And that gives me 750 gallons per hour. Why did I go there and not gallons per minute? Because if the pump operates twice per hour, calculate the required pump runtime in minutes for each operation. Okay? So now we're going to convert with this GPM here, and I'm going to do the conversion factor method so you see the method to my madness here and how the units work. 750 gallons per hour times 400 gallons per minute. Again, watch my conversion factor method video if you don't know what I'm doing here with why gallons go on the bottom so the units can cancel out. What does that leave me with? Minutes per hour, doesn't it? 750 divided by 400. Where did it go? 1.875 minutes per hour. Excuse me. We'll just write that whole thing out. 1.875 minutes per hour. Okay? Now divide that by 2. Make sure I didn't do some weird rounding thing on my cheat sheet here. I just put 0.93. Oh, sorry. You don't know what I just did. Let me explain that. Ignore that. 1.875 minutes per hour divided by 2. Why? If the pump operates twice per hour, okay, that is 0.93 minutes or 1 minute. I mean, I would really just round that up to 1 minute. 0.393 minutes is pretty much a minute for each operation. So if I'm doing 1.875 minutes per hour, okay, and I'm running it 2 times, that's 0.93. Put that point a little bit closer. 0.93 minutes per hour or 1 minute. So each time I run this pump, it's 1 minute, but I do it twice. Okay, I know I'm going over and over on that again. I just wanted to make sure I'm clear as to why 1 minute is the answer and not 1.875. It's because we ran the pump twice. Okay, next one. And don't worry, BOD's coming, guys. Oh, I have to do a 7th inning stretch. A pump is delivering a flow rate of 450 GPM with a total dynamic head of 120 feet. The input power to the pump, or brake horsepower, is 15 horsepower. Calculate the pump efficiency. I did a whole video on this. I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into water and brake and motor horsepower. I did a whole, like I said, video on that. Go watch that. We're just going to solve this math problem real quick. So how you do this, the equation is GPM, 400 GPM, times TDH, total dynamic head, divided by 3,960. Again, in that video, I explain where this number comes from. Okay, it has to do with horsepower. I'm not getting into that today. You're just getting exposure to what you might run into on an exam. This gives me 13.6 horsepower. This is my water horsepower. Okay, my brake horsepower is 15. My water horsepower is 13.6. This is the horsepower actually doing the work. But the brake horsepower is the horsepower that's applied to the shaft of the pump. So what's my efficiency? 13. Uh-oh, why does it say I'm disconnected? Are you guys there? Put something in the comment box if I'm not here. I'm sorry, if I'm here, please put something in the comment box because it just said that I'm not here. Just a thumbs up or a wave or something so I know that. Okay, cool. Thank you. I got a weird thing came across my screen, said I was disconnected. Okay. Thanks, guys. 91%. That's your pump efficiency. Okay. Yeah. Go watch that video. You're probably going to need it. A pump operates with a TDH, total dynamic head of 90 feet, and a flow rate of 300 GPM, and the pump is 95% efficient. What's the brake horsepower? So we're going to do this a little differently on this one. What we're going to do is 300 GPM times 90 divided by 3960. So we're figuring out our water horsepower, but we know our pump efficiency. So this is 6.8 horsepower. Now all you do is you take your efficiency, 6.8, divided by, where's 95% right here? 0.95 gives me 7.15 horsepower. That's my brake horsepower. Okay. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you definitely want to watch that video. What do we got next? 34. Well, I'm just going right down the pump stuff, aren't I? A pump operates with a total dynamic head of 100. Oh yeah, this is good. Yeah, you're going to need to know this one. A pump operates with a total dynamic head of 110 feet and a flow rate of 200 GPM, and the pump is 95% efficient and the motor is 92% efficient. What is the input motor horsepower? Okay, got to do that equation again. 200 GPM times 110 feet of total dynamic head divided by 3,960, and that gives me a water horsepower of 5.6. Okay, but we want our input motor horsepower. So what's our pump efficiency? It's 0.95, isn't it? Divided by 0.95. Okay, but there's one more efficiency to get to our input horsepower. What is that? It's the motor efficiency divided by 0.92. And that should give you 6.4. This is what would be on your motor plate, 6.4 horsepower. Okay, I've run into this on the 4 where they only give me one efficiency, and I'm supposed to figure out motor horsepower. In that situation, you only have one efficiency to use. But if they give you 2 efficiencies and you had to figure out your water horsepower, you got to use them both, okay? Or you're going to get it wrong. Okay. Okay. So on this one, this is the beginning of a bigger math problem that you're going to run into on your 4 or 5. It's the I just replaced a pump and it's going to take me how many years to recoup the cost. I'm going to do a video on this later this month when I got a centrifugal blower to swap out. So look out for that one. We're just going to do, this is priming you for a bigger math problem in the future, but this might be on your grade 3. A pump is in service 15 hours per day and requires 30 horsepower to move the water. The pump has an efficiency of 92% and the motor has an efficiency of 95%. Electricity costs 11.3 cents per kilowatt hour. What is the annual operating cost for this pump? So what we're going to do here is first we're going to figure out, we've got our water horsepower. It takes 30 horsepower to move the water. So 30 horsepower divided by 0.92. Of course I did. I changed numbers and didn't work the math out. So we're doing this together. 0.92 is 32.6 horsepower, okay? Like I said, they didn't give me, they did give me, my own stinking math problem. 32.6 divided by 0.95. Sorry guys, I'm out to lunch over here. 32.6 divided by 0.95. My motor horsepower is 34.3, okay. The pump has an efficiency of 92% and the motor has an efficiency of 95%. Maybe I should read my math problems before I start working them out. 34.3 motor horsepower. Okay, that's what you're gonna be charged when you're doing when you're paying an electric bill. So how does this convert? 34.3 motor horsepower times, where's my factor here? 0.74 kilowatt hours. 0.746 really is really it, kilowatt hours per horsepower. So that's 34.3 times 0.746. It's 25.5. We'll say 25.5, just keep it easy. 25.5 kilowatts kilowatt hours times what? It's really kilowatts, it's not kilowatt hours. That's actually not a true conversion. So it's 0.746 kilowatts per horsepower. Sorry. 25.5 kilowatts times how long am I running this pump? It's in service 15 hours per day. This is where kilowatt hours come from. I am sorry that I didn't explain that if you're unaware of how this works. There's a lot of people on message boards that get really worked up. There's no direct to kilowatts hours to horsepower. Okay, all right, calm down. So what this would give me is 25.5 times 15 hours is 382.5 kilowatt hours per day, okay? Now, 382.5 kilowatt hours per day times how much? $0.113 per kilowatt hour. So that's it's 11 cents, 11.3 cents per kilowatt hour. I should probably just do it appropriately with the day down here. Scribble that out. Okay, kilowatt hours cancel out. And then we have 365 days in a year. Days cancel out. So what does that give us? 0.113 times 365. The annual operating cost for this pump is $15,776. This is about as advanced as you're going to get on the grade 3. You probably won't see it, is my guess, but I want you to be ready for it in case you do. Okay? And I've said this before on the channel, and I'll say it again. All the math we do is just unit conversions. I've done nothing here today except convert units. That's it. I mean, it's really at the core of what we're doing. You just have to know where to put stuff, and that's it. Okay, here comes the big one. Let's BOD and NBOD. Take a drink of water. You can start reading all this. I'll read through it in a second. Okay. When calculating the BOD test, there are several key items to remember. Sample blanks cannot deplete more than 0.2 milligrams per liter DO, or the entire test is bad. Sample DO at the end of the day of the 5-day test must be greater than or equal to 1 milligram per liter. Sample DO depletion at the end of the 5-day test must be greater or equal to 2 milligrams per liter. So you have to have, at least in your dilution, you have to still have 1 milligram per liter dissolved oxygen minimum. And it must have depleted, and I'll show you this, depleted 2 milligrams per liter, or you toss that particular dilution. If your sample blank is more than 0.2, you toss the whole test. So that means something's wrong with your dilution water. For those of you in other states that do seed correction, I will not be doing that. We do not have to do that in California, and that's where my knowledge base is based out of. I don't know why we don't have to do that, but we don't. So if you're looking for that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that today. But this gets you pretty close. If you do need to do a seed correction, it's probably just one more step. NBOD is nitrogenous BOD and is performed by placing a nitrogen inhibitor in the sample. This gives you your CBOD, and you subtract that from your total BOD. So when you're doing an NBOD test, you're actually doing a CBOD test because you're inhibiting the nitrogen, the nitrifiers in essence, that would consume the dissolved oxygen, and you're actually doing a measurement of your carbonaceous BOD. Then you take your total and subtract from your CBOD from your total, and that gives you NBOD. I'm going to demonstrate this. Generally, on the exam, you have to find the total BOD first, and then the next math problem you use the answer you got to find the NBOD. If you get the total BOD wrong, guess what? You got the NBOD wrong, and that's a bad day. Unless otherwise stated, a BOD sample is 300 milliliters. Divide the dilution volume by the sample size to get your percent concentration of that dilution. Okay? Again, I will demonstrate, I put it in parentheses right here. A 10 milliliter dilution would be a 3% because 10 divided by 300 is 0.03. Okay? It's a 3% dilution. Divide the DO depletion of each sample that qualifies by the percentage dilution to get your BOD for that dilution. I will demonstrate this. Just bear with me. Average all the concentrations together to get your final BOD. Let's get this party going. I did a video on this, and I've debated actually pulling the video off the channel because I made a mistake, and I made a correction in the comments, and I think people see it, and I think it's okay because people are telling me they're passing their exams in those comments sections. So anyway, we're gonna write that wrong here. All right, so I have 3 dilutions here: a 5, a 10, and a 15 milliliter. They have a corresponding initial DO value on the table below. This is how it will present on your exam. You're going to get a table of data. And so you're going to see your initial DO is 8.5, and that's going to typically be right across the board. The blank test shows an initial DO of 8.5 and a final of 8.4. So remember, I've got to make sure I don't deplete on my sample blank more than 0.2. I depleted 0.1. We're good. Okay? Calculate the 5-day BOD for each dilution. We're looking for total here. All right, so how you do this, this is how I do it. sorry about that. I do 2 columns, 5 milliliter, or 3 columns, 10 milliliter, and 15 milliliter. So by the way, you can have more than 3 dilutions. This is how I've seen it on the exam. They give you 3 dilutions. And I've never, just so you know, had to cross out or toss a dilution. They've always been all valid, but that doesn't mean that won't happen to you. I mean, and if you have experienced on your exam that you've tossed your dilution, one of these dilutions, throw it in the comments. I'd be curious to hear, because I've not experienced that. So first thing you're going to do is measure the DO depletion. This is the first thing I do. So on my 5 milliliter, it's 8.5 minus 6.2 milligrams per liter dissolved oxygen. Where do I get that? Right here, initial and final. And that gives me a DO depletion of 2.3. Does that pass the test? Well, do I have at least 1 part per million or milligram per liter dissolved oxygen? Yep, I have 6.2. Did I deplete at least 2? Yes, I depleted 2.3 milligrams per liter. Great. We can continue with this dilution. Now, I'm going to divide 5 by 300. Okay, 5 milliliters by 300 milliliters. That gives me 0.017, which is a 1.7%. Oh, Abby's crossed out one. Cool, good. Be aware. And Abby's in California. Be aware. She's had to cross out one. 1.7% dilution. So what we're going to do is we're just going to keep it in decimal form. And we're going to take that 2.3 milligrams per liter and divide it by 0.017, which is the strength, the concentration. And that gives me 135 milligrams per liter. Okay? And we're just going to do the same thing right across the board. For the 10 milliliter, 8.5 minus 4.7 is what? That's 3.8. It passes the test. We have at least 1 milligram per liter, and we depleted more than 2 milligrams per liter dissolved oxygen. And now we do 10 divided by 300. It gives me 0.033. This is a 3.3% strength. And so I take 3.8 milligrams per liter dissolved oxygen depletion divided by this concentration of my dilution, and that gives me 115 milligrams per liter. Last one, 8.5 minus 3.1 equals what? What was my depletion? 5.4. Does that pass the test? Yep, I still have 1, and I have depleted more than 2. Now, 15 divided by 300. As you can see, when you get in a real rhythm with this, it's like widgets on an assembly line. You just move through it. 0.05 is 5% strength. 5.4 depletion of dissolved oxygen divided by 0.05. It's 108 milligrams per liter. These are all, and I'm not going to get into like outliers and stuff. Abby does lab at her plant. If you want to fill us in on that in the comments, by all means. But for the sake of the exam, I don't think you're going to get outliers. I don't think you're going to get one that's so wildly off and away from the rest of them that you have to toss it. That's not part of the rules when it comes to the exam. I bet you CWE's lab analyst makes you do that, but I've never taken it, so I couldn't tell you. Abby, chime in if you've had to toss a dilution because it's an outlier. But I don't want to confuse anybody. So this is what we're going to do. 135 from dilution 1 plus 115 from dilution 2 plus 108 from dilution 3 gives us what? 358 divided by 3, because we're doing an average, that's 119 milligrams per liter. Every time I've done BODs on my exams from grade 3 all the way to grade 5, it has been on the nose. My milligrams per liter, I've always like nailed what they're looking for. And I do it just like that. Well, I assume it's what they're looking for because I passed the test, but I've never been like off by a milligram per liter. It's always, this math is always like straight as an arrow, right down the fairway. It's worked. Okay, that's how you do a total BOD. Number 39 on my list. What did I do here? Here we are. An industrial effluent sample is analyzed with 3 dilutions of 20 milliliters, 40 milliliters, and 60 milliliters. No, okay, sorry, I'm reading the comments. Siwi, Abby Alicious, no throw out for outlier. So Abby says no throw out, she's not experienced the situation where she has had to throw out an outlier. Okay, sorry for that pause, I was reading the comments. Let's get back into it. An industrial effluent sample is analyzed with 3 dilutions of 20, 40, and 60 milliliters. The data on the table below is obtained. The total BOD measured 27 milligrams per liter. Okay, there's our total right there. They give it to me. Now, on the exam, like I said earlier, expect the previous question, that total, to be what you use. That's why if you get it wrong and you do this, you'll get this one wrong, okay? But for the sake of ease, I just gave it to us, 27 milligrams per liter. The blank test shows an initial DO of 9 and a final DO of 9. Calculate the NBOD for each dilution. What percentage of the total BOD is NBOD? Get ready for that, too, guys and gals. They're going to ask you to do that. 9 minus 9, why am I doing that? I'm checking out my DO depletion on my initial, is 0. I had no DO depletion, so that's less than 0.2 depletion. The whole test is valid. Let's proceed. I'm going to do my columns here, 20 milliliters, 40 milliliters, 60 milliliters. First one, 9 minus 7, 2. I did this one on purpose. Does this pass the test? It's at least 2. And I don't know if I didn't say that, I'm sorry. It's at least 2. It has to be at least 2. And you have to have at least 1 remaining. So if this was 1, it would pass. It would be fine. I could use it. If it was 0.9, I couldn't use it. If this was 1.9, I couldn't use it. But since it's a 2 milligram per liter depletion, it is still usable in the test. Okay. Now, what's my concentration? 20 milliliters divided by 300 milliliters. That looks like 0.067 is what I have on my answer sheet. 0.067 is a 6.7% dilution. And just like we did earlier, 2 divided by 0.067 is 29.85. Okay. Next. 40 is 9 minus 6.5. That gives me 2.5. All right. So did we pass the test? Yep. 1 is at least left over. We have at least 1 milligram per liter, and we depleted more than 2. Okay, move on. 40 divided by 300. My percent concentration is 0.133, or 13.3%. And now I just take 2.5 divided by 0.133 equals 18.8 milligrams per liter. One more time, 60 milliliter sample. 9 minus 4 or dilution. 9 minus 4.9 is 4.1. Did we pass the test? Yep. Greater than 1 left, more than 2 depletion. So 60 divided by 300 is 0.2. So it's a 20% concentration. 4.1 divided by 0.2 gives me 20.5 milligrams per liter. Okay, now what do? We add them all together. 29, we'll do it down here for space. 29.85 plus 18.8 plus 20.5 equals 69.15 divided by 3, because it's an average, gives me 23.05. What is this, though? What is 23.05? It's my CBOD, because there's a nitrogen inhibitor in there. All right? So first we're going to do is we're going to calculate the NBOD for the dilution. How do we do that? 27 minus, let's just drop this 0.05 off to make our math easy, minus 23, and that would give me what? 4 milligrams per liter NBOD. That's my nitrogenous BOD in this sample. Now, what percentage of the total BOD is NBOD? All you do for that one is you take 4 divided by 27, plug in my calculator, is 14.8%. So that's just 4 divided by 27 times 100. It's 14.8%. If you had to do CBOD percentage, you would just divide 23 by 27. Just, yeah. If you're doing the grade 3, you should know how to do a simple percentage. Next one. I think I might be able to do this in 2.5 hours. I think 2:30 was a good idea to extend this to 2.5 hours. A wastewater treatment plant has a channel that is 5 feet wide and 3 feet deep with a flow of 50 GPM. How far downstream in feet will the flow travel in 3 minutes? Use this information to decide where to place the ORP sensor. I had, not this very question, but I had to do one of these. I think it was on my 3. So be ready for it. You need to be able to place an ORP. And by the way, the number we get at the end of this is not realistic. It's just how my math worked out. I'll explain that in a minute after we get to our final answer. So a wastewater treatment plant is a channel 5 feet wide and 3 feet deep with a flow of 50 GPM. So what we're going to do is we're going to first convert that to square feet, okay? Because what are we asking for? Flow to travel in 3 minutes. And how many feet? That's your big key right there. I've got feet here, and I've got GPM, which is, another way to look at that is cubic feet per minute. Cubic feet per minute, okay? So there's your signal on what you should be doing here. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 feet times 3 feet is 15 square feet, okay? 50 GPM is really all you're gonna do is 50 gallons per minute times 7.48. Oops, sorry. Am I doing that? Nope, wrong side. Let me erase that. Divided by 7.48. Goes on the bottom. Per cubic foot. Gallons go away. That should be 6.7 cubic feet per minute. And then all we're going to do is divide by 15 square feet. Okay, square feet disappear, only 1 feet stays. And so that gives me 0.44 feet per minute. And how far downstream in feet will the flow travel in 3 minutes is what they're asking, 3 minutes. And that's where we're going to place our ORP. So when you multiply that by 3, 0.044 feet per minute times 3 minutes, that should give you 1.32 feet. Why this is unrealistic, and that's just way too close for an ORP to be, what I'm guessing I'm putting in this is a chlorine contact chamber is probably why I'm putting an ORP in, and that's way too close. You would probably want it, 10 feet away. You want mixing and things like that. So it's not a very realistic number, but this is just how you do it. You take your square feet of the cross section of the channel, and then you convert your flow into cubic feet per minute, and then you just divide those two so you have how many feet per minute, your velocity, and then you just say, well, okay, how many minutes is it traveling? 3 minutes? Okay, cool. 1.32 feet doesn't seem very far away for what we're trying to do. Now, if you get this math problem and they give you a length of the channel, which they probably will, you don't use the length. You use the width and depth. The length is going to be discovered through your flow rate. Okay, so just don't use the length. Is the only thing I can tell you. It took me a while to actually wrap my head around that when I was learning this math problem. I messed it up a few times in practice years ago. All right. A wastewater treatment pond processes a flow rate of 5 mgd. It has a surface area of 6 acres and is designed to maintain a detention time of 4 days. You need to calculate the required depth of pond in feet to meet these criteria. So you don't have a lot of pond questions, but the ones they give you are ridiculous. I remember getting this one going, oh, I wasn't ready for this, and I had to noodle on it for a while, but this is how you do it. So what you're gonna do is I'm just going to do right across the 5 million gallons per day times 3.069. You should commit this to memory. Acre feet per mg. Okay? 3.069 acre feet per million gallons. Okay, it's designed to maintain a detention time of 4 days. Times 4 days. And nothing goes down here. If you really want a fraction, we'll put the number 1 right there. Times 4 days. I need it on top because I'm got to get rid of days over here. Times 6 acres. This is a very conversion factor method, dimensional analysis way to do this. I don't do a ton of dimensional analysis in my math, but for this one I do because it's the only way this math problem makes sense to me, is to watch how these units actually cancel out. So 5 mgd goes away, mg goes away, mg goes away. Acres go away. Days go away. What does that leave me with? Feet. This is going to be my depth. 5 times 3.069 times 4 divided by 6. Of course, I didn't write the answer down. Why would I have done that? 3.069, it's 10 feet something, times 4 divided by 6, 10.2 feet. Or 10.23 feet, however you want to do it. This is the depth with these variables. This is the depth I need to maintain in my pond to have a 4-day detention time. That's it. Very simple, but if you're not ready for it and you read that, it's like, ooh. And actually, pond math is one of the easiest things to just rearrange. But again, it's nice to know what you got coming your way and you can practice a little bit. Okay, just in case we're all forgetting from the grades 1 and 2, I don't remember if I got one of these on my 3, but I really think it's important to remember that the hydraulic loading rate for a pond is in inches per day. Actually, on my last live stream for the grades 1 and 2, somebody questioned me on it in the comments, after I posted the replay, and I was like, no, man. Actually, if you look at the conversion sheet for the state water boards, if you look all the way at the bottom, it's the very last conversion, it's inches per day. Sorry, I just got a comment in the chat box. Leo's rule says, I'm literally at work right now, but I'll be watching this later on when I'm off. Cool, Leo, appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing if you have any comments or anything to add in the comments. Okay, wastewater treatment plant has a 7-acre facultative pond with a flow of 0.5 mgd. Calculate the hydraulic loading rate in inches per day. Very similar to what we just did. This is why, and it's a good demonstration of how pond math is just kind of versatile and easy to move around. Acre feet, so 3.069 acre feet in a million gallons, or an mg, times 12 inches per foot, because I need my feet gone in this one, times 7 acres. It's going to be on the bottom this time. And again, this is what's like interesting is you can flip these around, because what we're doing here is converting units. Mg goes away. Acres go away. Feet go away. What's left? Inches per day. 0.5 times 3.069 times 12 divided by 7 is 2.6 inches per day. Be ready for that. They like to pull out these grade 1 and 2 problems because they're expecting you to, I think they're expecting you to be like really on it. Let's see here. Leo's rule says, by the way, thank you for all the help you've done for the industry. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun doing this, and it's really nice to have the support of my general manager and all of you out there. So thanks, Leo, for saying that. But without you guys and my boss being okay with me doing all this, we wouldn't be doing it. So cool. And then Jose says, organic loading and hydraulic loading problems for sure on the test. Okay, and Jose's taken his 3 recently. So organic loading, I don't think I did one in this. It's pounds BOD per acre. And that messes people up because it's not acre feet, it's per acre. When you do organic loading to a trickling filter, when you do organic loading to a aeration basin, we use cubic feet, we use volume, not for ponds. You use the surface area in acres. Don't know why they do that, but they do. Number 46, we're almost done, everybody. A trickling, I think this might be the last math problem, actually. Maybe not. I don't know, we'll see. Is it? Oh, it is, okay, cool. A trickling filter has a surface area of 15,000 square feet and a maximum hydraulic loading rate of 800 gallons per day per square foot. The system processes an average dry weather flow of 5 mgd and a peak dry weather flow of 7 mgd. To ensure the filter operates efficiently during peak dry weather conditions, recirculation flow is added to maintain the hydraulic loading rate at or below its maximum limit. What is the recirculation ratio? So this is a big word salad, right? It's just a bunch of gobbledygook. It's very simple. There's like 3 steps to this math problem. So first thing is, we're going to convert our flow across our surface area, which is the hydraulic loading rate for a trickling filter, to gallons per day per square foot. So let's start with that. We've got, wait, did I do this right in here? 800 gallons per day. Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. 800 gallons per day per square foot. I haven't done this math problem in a long time, so excuse me if I had to reread that for a second. Times 15,000 square feet. Colin, sorry, I just saw that. Colin says, just joining, about to start from the beginning. Oh, Colin, I thought you told me I should just start from the beginning. Just start it all over again. Appreciate that, Colin. Yeah, go. This is all on demand. You can reverse and go check it out. And thanks for joining as a member. I see you're a member. I appreciate that, Colin. So 800 gallons. Let me start over, everybody. 800 gallons per day per square foot times 15,000 square feet, which is our trickling surface area, trickling filter surface area, is 12 million gallons per day per square foot. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we've got the system processes an average dry weather flow of 5 mgd and a peak dry weather flow of 7 mgd to ensure the filter operates efficiently during peak conditions. Recirculation flow is added to maintain the hydraulic loading rate at or below its maximum limit, which is the peak dry weather flow. Don't worry about average dry weather flow. Peak is its maximum limit, okay? What is the recirculation ratio? So we've got to figure out what our recirculation pump should be set at, and all you do is you have 12 million gallons per day per square foot. What's peak dry weather flow? 7 million gallons per day, okay? So that should leave me with 5 million gallons per day. I don't know why I put square feet in here. It's gallons per day, sheesh. Sorry guys, I wrote that in here for some reason and it's not gallons per day. So I apologize for any confusion. Square feet is gone when you're doing this. It's 12 million gallons per day is what's coming over the trickling filter. So for those of you that are like, what's he talking about? Where's the square feet? That shouldn't be in there, so sorry. Again, if I wasn't doing this live, I would have edited that out. So what you get is 5 million gallons per day is what I'm going to be putting as my recirculation. And you could break this down into GPM if you want. I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking is what's the recirculation ratio. And so what you do is you've got 5 million gallons per day against 7 million gallons per day. Why is that? This is my peak recirculation ratio. 7 million gallons per day is my peak dry weather flow, and 5 million gallons per day is what I'm setting my recirculation pump at. So that's a 0.71 recirculation ratio. You know, it's funny, this could have been written better. So I apologize if that's a little confusing, but yeah, that's what I'm getting at here is, and I've done a trickling filter one that's actually better than this. I think I chose this one because it was a little bit shorter, and I've got 10 minutes still on this. So I'm gonna do something here. Hold on, I'm gonna write one out. We're gonna add a slide. Here's what we're gonna do. Bear with me here. We're gonna do another math problem that is gonna maybe work out a little better. A trickling filter has a diameter of 80 feet and a maximum hydraulic loading rate of 0.6 GPM per square foot. System processes in average dry weather flow of 1,000 GPM and a peak dry weather flow of 2.5 times average flow. During peak conditions, include recirculation flow, including recirculation flow. The total flow must, bear with me guys, not exceed the maximum hydraulic loading rate of the filter. Calculate recirc flow in GPM during peak dry weather conditions. Flow conditions. Okay, this is going to make a little bit more sense than what I just did. Okay, let me get back into slideshow mode here. Let's work this out. Okay. A trickling filter has a diameter of 80 feet and a maximum hydraulic loading rate of 0.6 GPM per square feet. The system processes an average dry weather flow of 1,000 GPM and a peak dry weather flow of 2.5 times average flow. During peak conditions, including recirculation flow, the Total flow must not exceed the maximum hydraulic loading rate of the filter. Calculate the recirc flow in GPM during peak dry weather flow conditions. This is a way better problem. I should have done this one instead of the other one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to take our maximum hydraulic loading rate of 0.6 GPM per square foot. Hydraulic loading rate to a trickling filter is gallons per day per square foot. So what we're going to do is take 0.6 GPM per square foot times 1,440 minutes in a day. Okay, and that's going to give me 864 gallons per day per square foot. Okay, now what I'm going to do is the trickling filter has a diameter of 80 feet. I'm going to get my square feet over here, 0.785 diameter squared, 80 feet times 80 feet equals 5,024 square feet. Okay. Oh, I see. Sorry. Writing my notes, it's like, what was it? I can't even read my own handwriting. So anyway, at this point, we just take 864 gallons per day per square foot, multiply it by 5,024 square feet, okay? And that should give us 4,340,736 gallons per day. Okay? And then, average dry weather flow is 1,000 gallons per minute, and peak dry weather flow is 2.5 times that of average. Okay? So average dry weather flow is 1,000 GPM. What is peak dry weather flow? 2.5 times that of average. 2,500 GPM. Okay? Now, let's go down here. 2,500 GPM times 1,440 minutes in a day gives me 3,600,000 gallons per day peak flow. Peak. Okay? And so from there, I'm just going to take my maximum hydraulic loading rate, which I've already figured out, which is 4 million. This is my maximum hydraulic loading rate for the filter, 4,340,736. Oops. Hold on. 736, not 63. 736 gallons per day subtracted by peak flow, peak influent flow, 3,600,000. Well, I'm getting tired, guys. I'm sorry. 3,600,000 gallons per day gives me 740,736 gallons per day is what, during peak flow, is the maximum amount of flow I can have going over the trickling filter so I don't exceed maximum hydraulic loading rate. But I don't set a pump in gallons per day. I set a pump in gallons per minute, right? So how you're going to do that is just divide by 1,440 minutes in a day. I've got gallons per day. Divided by 1,440 minutes in a day gives me 514 GPM. If I'm expecting peak dry weather flows coming in, my recirculation pump should be no more than 514 GPM. That's what I just did here. Okay, I hope that was not confusing. I hope that helped. I think the last trickling filter problem is a little confusing. I made a couple mistakes as I was writing it out, but this actually explains what I was trying to say way better. You should be ready for stuff like this. When you're doing recirculation, when you're doing hydraulic loading, remember to use recirculation rate. When you're using organic loading, do not use the recirculation flow in your equation. Okay, I didn't do an organic loading on here. I did one on the grades 1 and 2, but that's what we got. And I got a comment here. Turnburn says, thank you for the info and help, sir. Absolutely, I'm here to help. I hope it's been helpful. I hope those last couple problems weren't too confusing. And that's all I got for you. If you have any questions, I set up an email address for this. It's californiawastewatertrainers@gmail.com. I've got a couple resources for you guys. I've already mentioned Ron Triger on Vimeo. Check him out. He's your activated sludge and anaerobic digester guru, I would say. Very good stuff. Operator Mindset. Matt over there in Georgia has a great channel. And then we've got Christian's channel, California Wastewater, all things math for your wastewater tests. It's like pretty much strictly math. He's got a couple other things in there, but it's strictly math. And then Operator Mindset's all sorts of stuff. He actually did a really good video yesterday on belt presses. So if you need something on a belt press, you should go watch that because it was really good. on how they work and the different things that you should know about it. I hope this helped. I don't plan to do another one, but if you guys want me to, I can. We didn't cover everything. It's so hard to cover everything in just one shot. But my hope in this was to get you pointed in the right direction. Frank says, studying for grade 1 in Arizona, jumped in today. Oh, well, Frank, this may be a little bit heavy for you, but I think, you know, if you know this stuff, you should be able to crush your one. And Frank, if you go check out my live stream that's posted, I did it about a month ago. It's posted on the channel. It's the grades 1 and 2. The grade 1 in Arizona is similar to the grade 1 in California. So yeah, there's that. I'm trying to think if there's any other resources I can send you to. It's not coming off the top of my head. But yeah, these are some more audio-visual style things. Oh, and for those of you who are going for higher level exams, I would recommend that you check out the Water Sifu for drinking water treatment, because a lot of the filtration and stuff, filtration for water translates over to what he talks about. That's a drinking water treatment guy. But not totally, because we have different regs, but if you're going for your high level exam, you're trying to figure out how sand filters work and polymer and all these things, that's a good podcast. And other Frank, we got 2 Franks. Frank Don't Love It says, same in here in California. So Frank, you're going for your 1 in California. Cool, man. Great. Anybody have any questions before 2:30 on the nose? Wow, man, I really landed that plane, even with the big mistake on the trickling filter problem. Anybody have any questions before I sign off? This has been fun. Okay, hearing none, unless some pop in. This will be available for replay. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all those people who joined as a member. Your live stream's coming for members only. We're going to be live streaming probably 3rd or 4th week in December. I don't plan to do a video the week of Christmas. That's just a crazy week. So I think it would be really nice to sit with the members and just chat. And we talk about, you know, some real world stuff. Maybe if you got questions, it'd be cool. Willie says, thank you. Absolutely, Willie. And Frank, yep, great. Abby, thank you. Thanks for everybody. Appreciate everybody. So I am hitting the button to go away. Have a great day, everybody.